Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich Special Council meeting on July 22nd, 2025. Welcome everyone here today in the gallery and those watching on YouTube. We have a full gallery here today. And thanks to Council for coming in and what is traditionally our summer break month to take care of some planning issues that we need to do. I'll start with a roll call. I'm Mayor Shantz. I'm present and chairing this meeting. Councillor Bryant.
Present.
Councillor Burgess.
Present.
Councillor Cadeau.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
And Councillor Schwint.
Present.
Before we get going on the agenda items, Council needs to reconvene in open session. Do we have a motion to reconvene? Councillor Schwint, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The Township of Woolwich acknowledges with deep respect that the land we call home has existed since time immemorial, long before our communities were formed and long before we arrived here. Indigenous peoples have had a deep and lasting relationship with this land, caring for it, learning from it, and living alongside all it sustains. We are grateful to the First Peoples who have lived on and cared for this land and who continue to do so today. In particular, we recognize the Chinootan, also known as the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people. We honor their deep connection to this land and we acknowledge their wisdom, resilience, and leadership. These communities have protected and cared for the land with respect, responsibility, and a sense of shared trust. As we move forward, we hope to build a future based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and stronger relationships with one another. May we continue to learn together, to care for each other, and to honor all those who share this place with us. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest for this evening? Seeing none, we have no items to come forward from closed. We do have a number of items for public meetings, and we're changing the order around just a little bit to put a couple of the shorter ones first. So we will, if you have an agenda, we will do 4.2.2, 4.2.3, and then jump into 4.2.1. The following portion of the meeting is for information only, and no decisions will be made tonight. Any questions can be directed to Development Services staff following the meeting. There are sign-up sheets in the foyer for anyone who speaks to any of our public meeting reports tonight or would like to be kept informed on the status of the application, so please fill that out before you leave this evening. I declare the planning public meeting to be open. And we will start with 4.2.2. And now I have to play around with my agenda, so just bear with me for a moment. That would be a zone change application 25-03 Northfield Drive, presented by planner Sherwin Maloney.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Shantz, members of council. Okay. I had a presentation. I don't know. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so RBA Planning on behalf of the property owner Wayne Martin have submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands municipally known as 2419 Northfield Drive East and the lands directly adjacent to the west. The subject lands are zoned agricultural and will remain agricultural as the primary use. Parcel A For reference is the parcel to the left and is approximately 4.3 hectares in size with a frontage of approximately 520 meters. Parcel B is a parcel on the right and is approximately 14.5 hectares in size with a frontage of approximately 110 meters. The applicant will be proposing a parcel reconfiguration in the future through the consent process to reconfigure parcel A and B. The next slide will demonstrate that. So you're looking at the top left image. Currently, the farm cluster is divided on two separate lots, making it difficult to expand the farming operations within the existing cluster due to minimum distance requirements. The reconfiguration will not result in the creation of new lots, as the size of the lots will not change. The applicant is seeking permission to permit a dry industrial operation agricultural related use with the following provisions. The fabrication and repair of agricultural equipment, a building height of 8.4 meters, whereas 7.3 meters is permitted for buildings associated with the agricultural related use. Outdoor storage of 45%, whereas 35% of the proposed agricultural related use building ground floor area is permitted. A separation of 120 meters to a residence located on the future parcel A, which is going to be that, if you're looking at the top left image, it's the smaller of the two parcels, whereas 180 meters is permitted. Once all comments have been received and considered, staff will prepare a recommendation for council's consideration. If approved, the proposed development will be subject to a site plan control and a future site plan agreement. No objections or concerns have been received to date. Please note, no decision will be made at this time, and the planning consultant is in attendance for questioning. Staff is also available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Councillor Schwint.
I'm just curious historically how this lot became configured the way it is.
That's a very good question. At one point, there was the regional road was, and forgive me, I had an image that showed this, but with the creation of the new the regional road, it
changed the
it changed,
configuration of the
yeah,
boundaries,
it created this situation where it was and it's hard to describe without an image in front of me. But my understanding is with the creation of Northfield Drive, those parcels were created as a result of that. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think the consultant here is here today. Maybe they could shed a little bit more light on that.
we can ask him. Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I had a question related to the new proposed site plan, specifically the GRCA regulated area. It has a rather large gravel area in the proposed, some of that on the GRCA regulated area. I was just wondering if you could explain what are the limitations of that regulated area?
So the GRCA area, And maybe it'll be best to kind of put back up some images to help me and everyone here kind of
Deanne?
I think I can help just by saying that through site plan approval, the GRCA would be circulated and they would be able to comment on the regulated area and the limitations on that area.
Okay.
and just to add to that, the top left corner image shows the regulated area in the hatched area there. And it was noted by the GRCA that for the proposed parcels in the parcel A in the future, that it would need that the access to that parcel would need to be outside of that regulated area. I just wanted to know that.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, so I will call on consultant Bob Black. He's with RBA Planning. Welcome.
Green light's on, so it's a go.
It is.
Yeah, this is sort of a quite an interesting application. Sherwin has explained some of the bases behind it. Just to back up a little bit, Wayne Martin has a feedlot operation that he operates out of the barn. He'll raise and fatten about 150 stockers. He can do that twice a year. So that's the main use of the property. It's an agricultural use. The secondary use is a farm-related use, which is the shop that he has an existing shop there now, and he wants to expand that shop as time goes on. However, the property is separated by an old road allowance, I guess, that used to run between the house and the barn. And that's what separated the property between the house and the barn. Then the region reconstructed Northfield Drive and made it as it is today. But the issue between the house and the barn and the lot line still remains, and it remains there today. So we do have an issue with that, and that is that there is an MDS separation problem there between the existing house and the existing barn, because the two lots are in separate ownership and they could be conveyed at any time. That's not the wish of Wayne Martin or his father and mother, who also own the lot beside his house. The plan is that we would proceed with a lot line adjustment. We're starting with two lots. We're going to end up with two lots. The only thing that's going to happen is they're going to be massaged a bit. The acreages will stay the same, but the lot lines will shift as Sherwin showed them in one of the slides, and also in the notice that was it showed the two lots A, parcel A being 4.3 hectares, which that's the existing size of the lot where the barn and the farm shed is on. And the parcel B would be 14.5 hectares, which is the same area that exists now. So in reality, to make this all happen, there needed to be a zone change done so that we could address some issues with respect to the site plan. And those Sherwin outlined to you, and they're outlined in the notice for you. The plan is that the existing farm shed will be picked up and moved. It will remain as a farm shed and used to store hay and straw. And Wayne wants to make it a taller building so that he can pile 6 high in this building. But he also wants to convert it eventually to part of the shop operation, and there's a restriction with respect to height for buildings used as a farm-related use. That's why the zoning bylaw provision for a taller building is included. In addition, it was made clear by the township that Parcel A would and should be recognized as a building lot in the future. And so to all surrounding properties, and the structural envelope that would be shown on Parcel A can be met by MDS. That's not an issue. The township did pass a new comprehensive bylaw provisions under bylaw 2624 with respect to on-farm diversified uses. And in there, it requires that any new residences be 180 meters from a shop and or an outside storage area. This setback is addressed through the zoning bylaw by allowing that to happen at 120 meters of a setback. And that would be behind the relocated farm shed. As I indicated earlier, there are benefits to doing the lot line adjustment. Today, we have 2 incompatible farm parcels. The completed lot line adjustment will result in solving those incompatibilities. The lot line adjustment reconfiguring the lots will retain the same lot areas. No additional lots will result. Start with 2, will end with 2. It resolves, in particular, it resolves an MDS issue that currently exists between the barn and the house. It will provide for a building cluster to be all on the same lot. The new shop would just touch the existing property line if in fact it remains. So by doing the lot line adjustment and merging these lots, then the new shop can be all on the same lot in the building cluster with the existing dwelling and farm operation. There's an identified suitable area of operation for the agricultural related use, and the area of operation is larger than what is suggested in the bylaw. And the reason for that is that the area in front of the shop is where the farm machinery, in particular manure spreaders that Wayne works on, will be stored. And over the years, farm equipment and farm machinery have just got larger and larger and larger. There needs to be room for the trucks that may bring a large manure spreader into the facility to turn and be unloaded from each side and then let the truck drive away. So that's the reason that there is a larger area of operation required to help this use function properly. We have prepared a planning justification report, and that has been submitted to the planning department, and Sherwin will be reviewing that as part of his review to come back with his recommendation. The lot line adjustment supports the planning policy objectives. We think of the official plan to preserve, protect, and encourage agriculture and agriculture-related uses to continue and be economically viable for the longer term. That's my submissions. Thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm here to answer those, or Mr. Martin, Wayne Martin, is here too, if I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Good job, and you answered the
Also noted that it is east of the CN Railway. So here's the purpose of the application. So it has a proposed official plan changes, and I'll go into this a little bit more in detail in the next few slides, but it requires an official plan change to include the entire property within the settlement boundary, and also to change the designation for industrial, East Industrial Policy Area, and environmental protection. It also proposes a zone change from agriculture to employment and open space. Actually includes open space O1 and O2. Briefly, it's to allow for an industrial subdivision. It also has a stormwater management pond and a public road system that's proposed as part of the subdivision. So here we have the official plan. This is our Schedule B. This application. So from this illustration here, you can see that there's a white area at the top right-hand corner of the subject lands. That area is not within the settlement boundary area. However, it is noted that within the Regional Official Plan Amendment, also known as ROPA 6, these lands are included, as well as in the official plan document that's being updated for the township. These lands would also be included within the settlement boundary area. And also, so this proposal, though, is coming in advance of that updated official plan. So hence the official plan amendment. And then as part of that, that area, that white area at the top right-hand corner would also be designated, or it's being proposed to be designated industrial, East Industrial Policy Area. And then there's also a parcel on the westerly side, which would be designated for environmental protection. So then looking at the zoning bylaw here, on the left-hand side, it shows that the lands are currently zoned for agricultural purposes. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would include the vast majority of the site for industrial employment purposes, specifically zone EM5. The O1 zone there is identified for the stormwater management pond, and then the O2 is for the environmentally protected lands. This identifies the concept plan that's being proposed. It includes 11 employment blocks. The blocks range in size from 1.6 hectares, which is about 4 acres, up to about 9.4 hectares, which is, well, I can't read it, it's like 23 acres, it says. There's there's a future block, and that's at the bottom right-hand corner. And it's only a future block because at this time it's not accessible. But it will be accessible in the future because of the road block at the bottom there. That also includes a stormwater management block, an open space. There's a pumping station. This also includes the Street A and Street B for a public road system. And there's also the blocks at the bottom illustrated there. I highlighted them there. Those are 2 blocks, and those will provide 2 options for the Elmira bypass. So that allows the region, and it's a bigger story there, obviously, but this provides 2 options to coincide with the regional EA that's ongoing. And this just allows for those 2 different options to whichever one they choose going forward. This is the list of studies that were submitted. Obviously, I'm not going to go through this, but they submitted all of these, and they're under review, and they've been circulated to internal and external agencies for review, and that review will continue. There was a comment that was raised by a local farmer who has been using the property. It's got some informal way for the farmer to get from the north side to the south side of using this property. And it's noted in here that that public road will be built as part of it. So they should be able to access it through this property from north to south in the future. This is a public meeting. Just provide information to everyone here to allow people to comment, and it's noted that no decisions are made at this point, and a future report will be presented to council identifying the results of the staff research. And I'm done.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Dykstra? Councillor Schwint.
Yep, appreciate that the region's considering the bypass and has been doing that for several years, I guess I'd say. Curious timelines on how developments or subdivisions like this happen, because it's starting to get real. If these subdivisions happen going forward, all of a sudden we're limited on what bypasses may or may not be possible in the future. Especially with work being done on Union Street as it is. So have you heard formally, informally from regional staff what they're considering at the moment and what their timelines may be to comment?
I can't speak to the regional EA, and I don't think this is necessarily the forum for that discussion at this time. But as I noted on the plan, there are the two options. There are 35 meters, either 35 or 36 meters, I can't remember, but they meet the requirements of the EA, of the regional. And by providing those two options, it allows the subdivision to go forward and not to interfere with that process.
Ms. Freeze.
Just to add to that, so we do know that the region is continuing to work on that EA process with their consultation process. But in the interim, any developments that come along this side of Elmira, the east side of Elmira, we do have in our official plan a swath that is identified for a future bypass. So we would continue to maintain those, that we have that land protected for future alignments, if that's the chosen alignment. Also, the region will have an opportunity to comment on this application and any other applications that are along that corridor.
Thanks.
So in terms of a timing and a bypass, that would be considered prior to any application for development of that parcel. No, this application would be able to proceed in the absence of them figuring out what that bypass location was or the timing for that. The only requirement would be that we maintain that access would be maintained. If there was never to be a bypass through this property, then we could release that land and we wouldn't need it. We need to keep it under the township ownership or the region ownership, but the property would still be able to proceed as long as we protect that right of way through it. Okay, that was my question about protecting the right of way.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Cadell.
The area in question here are close to lands affected by the legacy contamination from industrial pollution. So remediation remains ongoing. I noted that there was a hydrological report. I'm just wondering if they're going to engage with the township's committee to see if there's any issues from perspective of people who've been involved in that, in addition to the hydrological report.
Yeah, a full environmental assessment has been done for this. I'm not sure, to be honest, where they're at with that particular aspect of the research. I do know that through bypassing emails that additional boreholes were investigated, but I don't know the results of that or the rationale for it, if it is even related to those industrial plumes.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We have consultant Rachel Wolff from MHBC registered to speak. Ms. Wolff, welcome. I don't think, yeah, perfect.
Green means go. All right. Good evening, Ms. Mayor Shantz and members of council. My name is Rachel Wolff. I'm from MHBC Planning and here representing the owner and applicant of 1665 Scotch Line Road. I missed we got it. Stephen went over just about everything, I think, and I have noticed that a lot of my presentation is a duplicate, so I'll try and skip over where it is just a repeat. So the location, the 3 proposed applications, the policy context, noting that the lands, like Stephen had noted, really the purpose of the official plan amendment is to align the township official plan with the already approved regional official plan designations for the land. And then the zoning, again, that just that small portion for the stormwater management pond would be open space 1, and the regulated setback area from the GRCA feature would be open space 2, so that it's well protected. Very much already gone through. So again, the location of the 2 kind of alternatives for the regional road bypass, this was all kind of done with lots of consultation with the region and the township to try and understand where these routing options can go, and as the region continues through the Class EA process. As Stephen had noted, the right-of-way for Street A is 23 meters, and then 6-meter width road widening blocks are provided on both sides of Street A for both of the north-south kind of connections. So either of those options can end up with a total of 35 meters of right-of-way width, depending on which of those options, if either of them are even required in the fullness of time. And it has been noted by the region that it's likely that this property, the actual bypass, wouldn't be constructed until 2051, which is why we're trying to propose this and give the options well in advance. And so those are kind of the 2 options that are shown, and they're in alignment with the direction of the regional and the township official plans. The servicing for this property will be, for water, will be through a looped water main system with connections to the Southfield Drive right-of-way, and an extension of the existing water main will be brought from the intersection of Union Street and Southfield, and then loop back around to Arthur Street South. Replacement of the existing water main with a new water main is proposed within the Southfield Drive right-of-way extending from Street A, just to provide the sizing required for the industrial land purposes, and as well as in the Arthur Street right-of-way connection. Sanitary servicing, the pumping station is being proposed in Block 13, and a new force main will extend up Southfield Drive. And then stormwater servicing is proposed through the stormwater management block on the western side of the subject lands, and protects the regulated area. And the wet pond will discharge through an overland flow channel to the existing wetland to the east, then through the culvert, and ultimately to the existing Elmira Drain 1. The supporting reports that were provided with the application, and that is all.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Wolff? Councillor Schwinn.
2051 date caught my attention, but I'll leave that aside for a second somewhat. How can a project like this go ahead, leaving both options viable? It's not taking up too much space on the property and making it kind of inefficient use of land?
It definitely is taking up quite a bit of space. And it's really ultimately once one of the two is decided, and because they're provided as road widenings, they will be kind of held and not being able to be used in the interim. But in the fullness of time, those lands can go back into the industrial blocks. If they're not, if say the right option is chosen, then the left future development blocks will be back into those industrial blocks. I'm not sure if I can go back in my presentation.
I'll try that a little bit.
Mr. LaBrush.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Shantz. To further answer Councillor Schwinn's comment, and I know earlier you had mentioned that, what assurances do we have? And if there's further developments coming along, we may not have opportunities where we, in this case, really have a cooperative developer. And we also have a situation where the size of the property just so happens to conveniently be laid out with a sort of a loop road that also more or less conveniently aligns with a bypass opportunity. So it just seems like the sort of the stars or opportunities align on this property, but you're right, there may not be this situation in the future with other lands. So I think we just need to continue to urge the region to complete that EA and make a decision on this once and for all soon.
Yeah, the 2051 caught my ear as well. That isn't the date that I had in mind, even as an outside. So that's a different discussion for a different day. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. I understand that Phil McKee wanted to speak to this. There you are. Come on up. Just press the button there, Phil, and turn the mic on. Thank you.
Can you hear me? So I'm here representing companies that are in the Northeast, and it's some employment land. So yeah, the 2051 thing is just shocking, really. 15 years ago, we had holding provisions put on our lands there in the Northeast because of the bypass. And it was on the table 15 years before that. So, but anyway, we support the zone change the way it's presented. It just seems to be, so I'm glad I attended, because those options weren't on the website that I could see. Right? And, that's about all I have to say. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No. Okay, thanks for coming in. I'll ask Deputy Clerk if there are any other unregistered participants.
We do not have any unregistered participants for this item.
Okay, and is there anyone else? Okay, I'm seeing hands waving. Is there someone else who would like to speak to this one? Hi, Sandra.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Shantz.
You have 7 minutes. It's on.
It's on,
You're good.
okay.
Yeah.
And good
7
evening,
minutes.
council. Nice to see you, and staff, of course, as well. I'm here on behalf of Apt Environment, which represents the community. And we're an old environmental group that has worked on the water situation for 36 years. And now we're branching out a little bit into emissions and concern about greenhouse gas emissions. I'm not sure at what stage in this planning process this question might be appropriate, and maybe it's not today. But I'm looking at that plan and I'm thinking, they're thinking natural gas for sure. We've talked about wastewater, so that's covered in terms of how water is going to be managed on the site. But at some point, there's going to be a projection for the peak load of natural gas consumption, which would also give us then the additional greenhouse gas emissions that will be added to the community burden industrial, institutional, commercial, residential. It's all community burden, right? So given that we have a goal of reducing our natural gas consumption by 6.7 million cubic meters a year, I'm just kind of wondering where this is all going to come into the picture and who's going to deal with that and what the plan is. So that's what I'm raising this evening, and I don't know if you can give me an answer, or maybe the planners can. But I think we need to know that, and I think you need to know that because you're our representatives, and if you approve a plan that has natural gas going in, then we're going to want to know how we're going to get that brought down. 6.7 million cubic meters is a pretty big right at the moment.
I saw Ms. Freeze put her hand up, and also if we can't answer the question tonight, we're keeping track of questions and they'll be answered later. But Dan, was that what you
That
were
was
gonna
going
say?
to be my comment.
Okay.
At this point, though, it is just the division into lots, but we appreciate the comment and we can report back and look into that further for the recommendation report.
Okay, thank you
So
very much.
We'll keep track of all the questions.
Right,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's probably going to be
So-
another time when this issue comes up, but I thought this is the beginning, so let's make sure we don't lose track of it from the start.
Sure. Dan, did you want to speak to process?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, this is just the public meeting stage of the development. We will be coming back with a recommendation report to council as well. And at that time, we would also be able to respond to any questions that are received today.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone? Okay. There's one and then the fellow in the back. Go ahead, come on up. Just give me your name and what else? Name and address or
Yeah, so my name's Chaise, Ireland. I'm at 110 Southfield Drive, so I'm right across from the development. I just wanted to bring up a formal concern for consideration with regards to our living standards there. We're directly adjacent to the development opportunity, so we understand the need for progress. However, we are somewhat in the dark of what's happening so far. It's kind of last minute for us. So just once developed and during the development, we're just concerned about traffic, light pollution, groundwater, noise pollution, if 24/7 operations exist on the development, with the zoning change and displacement of floodwaters onto our land, because our land all slopes down. Yeah, so just asking for consideration from the builder, the developer, and the township. So that's it.
thank you. Make sure you sign the documents out on the table. You did perfect. And you too, Sandra. In the back there, come on up.
I'm Mark Perry at 1044 Scotch Line Road. I think you were mentioning this, maybe you could clarify. Some of my neighbors have access to the beautiful lane which exists through that property, which I drove on to get here tonight. And my neighbors want to continue to have access for their horse and buggies from Scotch Line to Southfield. Is that the case?
Mr. Dykstra.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mark. Yeah, that is the general intent. As you saw from the plan, there's a sort of a loop road that goes from Southfield Drive. There has to be further discussions as to how it connects ultimately to Scotch Line Road, as there's two different options there from the through the EA. And so we're just going to have a little bit additional discussions on how that will ultimately connect to Scotch Line Road.
I mean, I don't want a paved connection to Scotch Line personally, obviously. But my neighbors would like, maybe we could do like it's a U. So maybe we could do like a small gravelled section from Scotch Line to that U. Does that make sense that they could access to get to Southfield? Does that make sense?
Well, currently the plan of subdivision is identifying that U is for industrial traffic, right? So it's going to definitely have to be, I think it's a 23-meter wide road, and it'll be a full serviced and asphalted. In terms of the consideration for that connection between that U road and
Scotch line.
and Scotch line, there'll have to be further discussions on that. I'm not exactly sure as to how that'll operate. But yeah, thank you for your comment, and we'll consider that as part of going forward in terms of the review of this application.
Okay, I'd like that to be considered as part of the review.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Then we will move on to 4.2.1, which is an information report on the draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment and zone change for 52 Hawkesville Road and 110 and 118 Northside Drive, St. Jacobs. So I know we have a number of participants here, and thank you for your patience. I wanted to not make the other folks sit through what's going to be, I think, a longer evening. So before we hear from participants, I'll call again on Stephen Dykstra.
Thank you. I'm just pulling out my presentation now. Here we go. So this application was submitted by GSP Group on behalf of Schlegel Urban Development Corp. It's for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and a draft plan of subdivision. Its address is R 52 Hawkesville Road, 110 and 188 Northside Drive, and it's in St. Jacobs. Okay. Here's the location of this application. It's located in the northwest sector of St. Jacobs. As you can see, it's illustrated here where it's located. It's an aerial imagery, and it shows King Street. It's just north of Hawkesville Road there. There's Highway 85 illustrated there as well too. What I didn't identify is Northside Drive, which is immediately east of the subject lands. The total area of the lands is about 29 hectares, which is 71 acres, of which 15.24 hectares are developable. And that's due to the woodlot or the environmental area on the north portion of it. Just immediately east of the subject lands is the CN Railway. East of the subject lands is a variety of uses, including institutional, some residential, a bit of commercial, and then around the surrounding rest of it is predominantly rural and agriculture and nature. Again, to briefly highlight this application, it's for an official plan change, and this kind of is similar to the other one that was before. The entire property has to be brought into the settlement boundary through the regional official plan amendment, also known as ROPA 6. These lands were included as part of the urban boundary. Now, again, similarly, the official plan is being updated. These lands are to be included in it, but because these application is coming before the official plan is updated, these lands have to be brought into the settlement boundary area, and the proposed designations for this application are residential, ancillary, environmental, and there's a small portion of at the northwest area that's for the remain as prime agricultural area. The proposed zones, it's currently zoned as agriculture, to residential, which is R5, which is a medium density. It's identified as medium density in our zoning bylaw. R6, which is identified as medium high density, and open space O2. The proposed residential topologies include single detached, semi-detached, townhouses, and potentially multi-residential. The plan also includes a public park, some infrastructure, which includes stormwater management pond, as well as a public road system. Here's a further explanation of the official plan. This identifies with where the subject lands are, and the applicant is proposing to include the entirety of those lands within the settlement boundary area. Again, as identified, it was identified in the ROPA 6, and now the OP is bringing it in, but again, it's coming in advance of that. Here's the applicant's proposal for the official plan designations. As you can see, the lands would be, all of the lands would be included, and the hatched area would be for residential and ancillary, which allows for a number of residential uses. The environmental lands would remain as environmentally protected, and there's, as you can see at the very top left-hand corner, it's for prime agricultural area. Here we have the zoning. Currently, you can see on the left-hand side, it's zoned for agriculture, and a portion along Northside Drive is zoned as R3. The proposal includes residential R5, and that's in the sort of pinkish salmon color there. R6 is the more reddish tone on the southerly portion. And then there's open space for the park, which is sort of that middle green blob, and then the environmental protected area, which is the large green blob at the top. And that also includes a stormwater management pond. This slide provides the concept plan. Here's some highlights of the plan. It includes low density blocks. It includes some 11 low medium density blocks. It includes 2 medium high density blocks, and those are the darker orange blocks at the bottom there. And the parks, which are the dark green areas, sort of central to the developed area. It also includes the large open space block at the north portion of it. This plan includes a stormwater management facility, and also too, there's a small residential reserve block. That residential reserve block is immediately off of Northside Drive. You see where Street A accesses Northside Drive there. There's a odd triangular piece just north of that Street A. That's where the residential reserve block is. This plan also includes obviously a public road system with one access onto Hawkesville Road, as well as one access onto Northside Drive. There's some generally projected population around 800 to 960-ish people, approximately close to 300 units, with densities anywhere ranging from about 48 to close to 60 people per hectare. Oh, I went up, down. Okay. These were the studies that were submitted as part of this application. They're being reviewed by internal and external agencies, and obviously we haven't completed those research on those, but that's an ongoing process. We've received some public comments to date. These are just a few of them that I've noted that we've received to this point. There's some concerns with the traffic study counts as they were done in January and November. We've had a comment to introduce a dead end on Northside Drive to stop through traffic. We've had the request that the township continue reviewing this application with respect to the allocation and staging. That's consistent with the methodology that's been used in the past. And we've also had concerns with sewage backup at a residential that's located on Water Street. Amongst a number of other comments that have also been received, but these are the ones that I've highlighted at this point. As noted, this is a public meeting. No decisions are made at this public meeting. This is an opportunity for to present this application to council, to the mayor, and to the public, and to provide an opportunity for public to provide their comments. And a future report will be provided to council, and it will review all of the comments that have been provided as well as all the studies, and we'll present a staff recommendation at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Dykstra? Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Dykstra. I'm assuming the traffic study concerns with January, November is because it doesn't take into account tourism in the summer months?
The member of public would probably be able to indulge us with a little bit more as to why they think that. But that's obviously the traffic study was done in a proper way as per their requirements. So I was just taking down the identifying what we had received at this point.
Do we have a rough idea of the variance and difference between traffic in those months compared to summer, or do we have a rough idea of how much traffic we may see in the summer months in the downtown?
Again, I'm not a traffic specialist, but you're going to have variance throughout the year. During the summer, you're not going to have school. During the winter, you're going to have other things. So I'm not exactly sure how they determine which months that they use, but you're going to find variance at any time of the year for different types of traffic.
Thank you.
Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I'm noting in the zoning map that the large majority of residential areas are zoned R3. This proposal is largely zoned R5, R6. I'm wondering if you could just explain what the differences would be between the R3, what exists now, and the R5, 6, what we can expect.
Through Mayor to Councillor Cadeau. R3, there's no differences in terms of permitted uses between the R3 and the R5 zone. R3 and R5 all allow single detached, semi-detached, duplex, triplex, fourplex. So those are permitted uses in R3 as well as R5 zone. The R6 allows for a little bit more, other building formats, including fourplexes, townhouses, apartments, and townhouse clusters, which is sort of more of the stack back-to-back. And as you can see, I put up the slide there, which identifies the proposed R5, the proposed R6, and I believe all of the beige area on, well, the current zoning map there identifies where the R3 is. P is for institutional uses. That's for the Calvary Church.
Anyone else? Okay. Then I will call on Heather Price of GSP Group and Vaughan Bender of Schlegel Urban Developments to provide us with a presentation. Welcome.
Just getting organized here. Good evening, Mayor Shantz, councilors, staff, and members of the public. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to speak to these applications in support of the development proposal by Schlegel Urban Developments. As you said, my name is Heather Price, and I'm with GSP Group. Just some quick introductions of our team, as we do have a few other members here tonight. The consulting team is quite large. You saw that lengthy list of studies, but we have with us Charlotte Lewington, who's also with GSP Group, Matt Ninamia and Erica Wood. They're with Walter Fady, our civil engineers, Alex Robinson, and of course, Vaughan Bender with Schlegel Urban Developments. So we've kind of split up our presentation here. We are going to try and keep it brief and not duplicate the great information that was provided by Mr. Dykstra already. Maybe just focus in on some of the nuts and bolts of the planning applications and tell you a little bit more about Schlegel Urban Developments and the dialogue that's happened to date and that we hope to continue going forward. And lastly, of course, we're here to hear your feedback, answer any questions that we can, and take that back to help us advance the plan further. So I don't think there's much more to highlight here than what you've heard already about the site's context. I think in answering one of the questions, it was noted that it's adjacent to the Calvary Church, which is potentially relevant for one of the residential reserve lots that I will touch on a little bit later on. Policy context as well. I have nothing to add there. It was quite comprehensive. Thank you. The proposed development, again, I have very much the same notes as Mr. Dykstra. The only thing perhaps I will highlight is that there's in total 186 to 409 units proposed. That may seem quite a wide range, and that's because there's quite a bit of flexibility built in here in terms of whether it gets built out as single detached, towns, semis, or townhouses, or potentially even low-rise apartments. The parkland represents about 4% of the developable area across 2 parks. And there are 2 phases proposed. The initial phase would start at the Northside Drive access and kind of move westerly, bringing on the necessary services as well as the stormwater management block and the parkland. Again, this official plan amendment is primarily a conformity exercise, just to bring it into conformity with regional official plan policy that was approved through ROPA 6. More of the details fall at that zoning bylaw amendment level, and the requests are detailed here in my presentation. I think as a general remark, rather than going through them one by one, I would say that the general intent is to provide flexibility for built form. And perhaps to expand on one of the answers that we heard earlier, the reason for going R5 instead of R3 is not because of the uses, as you understand that the uses are the same, but the R5 sort of permits a closer form, a more dense form of development than the R3 would. So it comes down to those regulations in terms of setbacks, lot sizes, and what have you. There are a few very specific regulations proposed, and that's based on Schlegel's good experience with other developments in the region and beyond, and the setbacks and forms that have been built and occupied and well appreciated by the communities that they're in. In terms of studies and reports, as I sort of alluded to, there was quite a large team involved. And this application goes back, I think it's 2021 from our earliest consultation. It takes quite some time to develop all these reports and integrate them and take their findings to inform the layout of the subdivision and some of the key design moves underpinning what's before you tonight. So I will highlight a couple of those. One of the key conditions of the site, I would say, is the large environmental feature on the northerly portion of the site. It's quite an extensive woodlot. We've had Natural Resource Solutions Incorporated, NRSI, prepare an environmental impact study that took a detailed look at that woodlot and the water features and the flora and fauna within it. And it contains some pretty key recommendations that inform the subdivision and will also provide some guidance for future development, of which include the delineation of the edge of that feature, so the drip line of the trees, and it recommends a 10-meter offset from that feature as a buffer. Next is the hydrogeological and geotechnical assessment that was done by GHD engineers. This is looking at various aspects of the site's hydrogeology, looking at the flows of water throughout the lot. It involved several boreholes throughout the site, monitoring wells over a period of time to get a good picture of the groundwater depth and the geology under the ground of how that water flows. It determined that there's a presence of a high groundwater table, which is a design constraint or consideration that needs to be taken into under advisement with the site's grading in particular. Together, those two studies by NRSI and GHD are integrated and did a review of the surface and subsurface water features. They studied the woodlot and the wetland to ensure that there's the existing balance of water, that means water flowing in and out, can be maintained. That concluded with post-development conditions that would not change the function of the existing municipal drains. So that is noted as a constraint here, but I would consider that a design parameter, a rule that we have to adhere to in designing the subdivision, is ensuring that those drains continue to function as they currently do. For site grading, these are some of the parameters that were taken under consideration. One is that the grading is to be maintained at all the outer boundaries of the subdivision, that the environmental features are protected by protecting that water balance within the wetland and woodlot, that the limits of the subwatershed remain generally unchanged, and that footings and foundations be adequately separated from the water table. From a servicing perspective, this diagram, although it may be difficult to see on here, and I apologize for that, is showing that water service is proposed to be provided from an existing main that exists on Northside Drive. Sanitary service is also proposed to be brought in from Northside Drive, an existing 200 millimeter sewer. And storm servicing is stormwater is to be controlled through the installation of the stormwater management ponds, and the majority of the site letting out to municipal drain number 11, which is to the north, and a portion to the 325 millimeter storm sewer located on Hawkesville Road to the south. This is giving you just an overview and a snapshot of where we're at today in the overall process. The early consultation started as early as 2021 on a portion of this site. It's labeled as Gillies, Freedy, People Care. It's generally the northerly portion, having access to Northside Drive. Since then, there's been many informal discussions with planning staff over the years and the refinement of this plan, and the various moving pieces, if you will, including the ROPA 6 determination of whether or not it was going to be in the settlement area. Servicing and the timelines for when that servicing is available is also of critical importance for the subdivision. We did have a pre-consultation for the overall lands in July of 2024 for a plan similar to the one before you this evening. We heard the feedback, we completed the studies, and as a result, the plan is slightly refined as what's before you tonight. One of the key things I think is worth noting is through the pre-consultation, we did receive an emphasis on the need to achieve densities in the order of 53 people and jobs per hectare. That is a regional policy. In our view, that's to be measured across the Greenfield area as a whole and not on each application. But based on that feedback, we've incorporated some of that flexibility, some of that tightening up of setbacks so that we can provide for more people, residents, through the units that can be accommodated. So we did submit at the beginning of May of this year. Tonight, we're happy to be here for the public meeting. And our hope is that we could be back for a decision later this fall.
Yeah, a lot of paper to manage. Thanks, Heather. And thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'll just take a step back as to who is Schlegel Urban Developments. I know we're perhaps not new before the council, but maybe not all of our neighbors have gotten to know us yet. So we are in many different businesses, the Schlegel family, the Ron Schlegel family, I work with as the Chief Operating Officer of Schlegel Urban Developments. But the family is involved in businesses in agribusiness and seniors care, healthcare, and in community development. We have master plan communities in Kitchener that we have developed. Some of the logos are on the screen there. We have a couple of grocery anchored plazas in the southwest of Kitchener. We recently acquired the marketplace in Uptown or Midtown Waterloo. And 2018, 2019, we're pleased to be able to step into ownership of the St. Jacobs Market District lands from the Shantz family and carry that forward. I've lost the thing. What did you press?
Just the 4 arrow.
With that, the mayor and some members of council were able to join us for a celebration this spring of 50 years of the St. Jacobs Farmers Market, which really evolved from a farm-minded effort to merge the Kitchener and Waterloo stockyards back in 1975. And so we're pleased to be able to be seeing that important animal livestock exchange continue on, and as well, the community and broader provincial and national embrace of the farmers market, and also our recent investment in the Stockyards Brewing Company and restaurant and other new ventures in that area. I won't spend a lot of time on these next slides, but Schlegel has developed 20 years ago guiding design principles for all of our projects, and we try and hold ourselves to these objectives in everything we do in community development. I'll just rattle through a few of the highlights: establishing a sense of place, providing the opportunity for meaningful human interaction, providing for various modes of transportation, not only the car, but cycling and walking and transit. We like to do mixed use. In this opportunity, we're looking at both residential and institutional, with the neighboring development of the potential people care senior site. We like to achieve efficient land use, provide for a full range of housing options, maintain human scale in buildings and diversity in architecture, work with an urban grid or a modified grid in terms of design, and preserve, physical environments as they should be in all of our projects. Our vision for this addition to the north edge of St. Jacobs is to provide for low-density housing, predominantly low-density housing, and a much-needed seniors care home within the St. Jacobs settlement area in a form that is compatible with the neighboring existing neighborhood, the historic village of St. Jacobs, and also is in keeping with the provincial and municipal objectives for density moving forward, which is a balancing act to achieve all those things at the same time. The layout is, as I've indicated earlier, basically a modified grid. It will be well connected to existing residential community and provide future connections to adjacent lands. It's our intent to create and administer urban design guidelines, which we, I'll say, impose on any builder that builds within our neighborhood as a way to ensure that the high standards that we're looking for get put into place in the final lasting step, which is home building and creating homes. As certainly council's aware and many of our neighbors, there's been a long-standing effort with the People Care Seniors Organization and the Calvary United Church to bring about an opportunity for a long-term care home in this portion of the neighborhood. And our site is interlocked with that north end of the Calvary United Church lands, providing access and services and so on. And we've been very pleased to work alongside People Care. They're They're in the seniors care business, as is the Schlegel Village Company that is part of our organization, but there's no need for competition. There's many individuals who are looking for seniors care, and so we're pleased to try and assist in helping bring this project to fruition. I think this may be the most important thing I'll have to say tonight, which is the ongoing township and neighborhood dialogue, which has taken place since we've submitted and in the weeks that have followed. It's been a period of a very, I'll say, focused and intense discussions on many different matters, and some additional, approaches and opportunities have been brought forward as we've had these discussions with township staff. And I would just touch on those tonight in an effort to be transparent. I've shared, some of these, same discussions with our neighbors. I've had the fortunate opportunity to talk with every neighbor who adjoins our property over the last period of time. Some multiple conversations and certainly dialogue to continue, and those have been good discussions. So we've talked about an alternative approach to achieving separation to the high groundwater table in this area that Heather mentioned. That third pipe groundwater conveyance system, if that is able to move forward, much as a farm tile would gather up water close to the surface and drain that, it does allow us to reduce fill brought into the site, improve grading, eliminate hopefully all retaining wall. And those would be things that I think you will hear subsequently would be well received by our neighbors. It also does open up an opportunity to route some of our sanitary servicing to Hawkesville Road. And so that is another very in-depth matter that we're deep into reviewing at this present time. I know you're going to hear from neighbors. I'll just highlight a little bit of what I have gleaned along the way from those neighborhood discussions. A desire to see improved grading transitions, particularly probably with our neighbors to the south along Hawkesville Road, 60 Hawkesville Road and 56 Hawkesville Road. They have had past concerns with respect to basement groundwater. Municipal water supply has been discussed, access to services, impacts of retaining wall, particularly as they affect the 60 Hawkesville Road, heights of 11 feet to 2 feet in that area, so significant where the land falls off towards the railway tracks. So there's certainly some opportunities that are being discussed to improve that condition. We've had discussions about construction traffic and how to maximize safety and minimize impact during the construction process. We've heard concerns regarding the existing intersection at Northside Drive and Sawmill Road, and concerns as well about future additional impacts as traffic increases, but certainly I think an underlying concern regarding what condition is there today, as a lot of people are using that as a bit of a jog coming off of Sawmill and then continuing on Hawkesville, and just a lot more traffic in that area. And I think some of the concern as well is about farm traffic getting through that intersection, and horse and buggy traffic and how those interface with each other. We've had good discussions with our neighbors on Northside regarding their concerns with respect to trees and large trees in their backyard, as well as some, I'll say, border trees that we share. And we did have the opportunity to have our arborist out on site and had a good walk in the backyard and look at those trees together. And pleased to be able to say that our arborist is confident with the lot orientation, trees being in rear yards, and proximity of neighbors' trees, large trees that have root systems that probably cross the property line, that there should be good opportunity to not have impact on those trees. We've had input regarding lot orientation to Northside Drive. And I think we've also discussed, consideration for bungalow townhomes, semis, seniors, product some product that is oriented to seniors. And, that is all input and, community guidance that we're happy to receive and see how we can work all of that into, balancing, I'll say, the many different objectives. So this final plan here is just to give council and the community a sense of what this plan could look like. The plan on the left is what's in the application that was submitted, and the plan on the right is how the plan could potentially change as a result, I'll say, predominantly of a groundwater conveyance system or a third pipe. It gives us the opportunity to kind of split the direction of servicing, some going to Northside, some going to Hawkesville Road. It introduces a second stormwater management pond in the bottom left corner, you can see on the right-hand plan. And that, is compatible with the neighbor at 60 Hawkesville Road. Also is the end result of I'll say eliminating retaining wall and reducing fill significantly. And just to in advance perhaps cover off a question that may come, there is always going to be a need for some of our water to go to the north east direction, because that is where the core environmental feature of the woodlot wetland is. And as Heather mentioned, we've studied a year's worth of activity in that wetland, done all the measuring, and we can achieve the water balance, but we need to continue to direct water, some of that water to the northeast, even if we take some of it to the south, I'll say. And the potential people care site is the red box on these plans. So I'll maybe stop there, and Heather and I are happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bryant.
Thank you, through you to the delegate. You had mentioned 4% of the property going to parkland. Can you tell me how many acres you're looking at putting into green space, please?
Oh, can't do the acres.
It's just easier than hectares. Either way.
I was just thinking, oh, I can't do that acres in my head, but
Hectares is
there's 0.62 hectares across 2 park blocks. That would be your programmed open space as a park space. But there's also the open space block, that being the woodland wetland, and that's think of it as your no-touch zone. It's not meant for recreation. That's 13.79 hectares.
Okay, I just know with condensed housing, I think green space is something that's becoming very important to people, and I don't want to see us with no green space in a large development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cadeau.
If I can just add to, excuse me, Councillor Bryan's comment. I noticed that the 2 parks are basically across the road from one another. Maybe that's not, I saw a bit of a frown there. Is that not the case?
Yeah, if through you, Mayor Shantz, so maybe I'll make 2 points. I think we have worked with township staff in terms of what was envisioned for a quantity of parkland dedication. So we're kind of taking our cues from that, but definitely agree that green space, the more dense the housing is, and going forward, the green space it's an important part of the community focal point, and it's an important amenity. The evolution of block number 20 really came about as a result of some dialogue I was having with the Calvary United Church leadership. And so, we were trying to keep our park space kind of centralized, but we added that, I'll call it a parkette or green linkage, to connect to what is land that is really, its future use is undetermined by the church. But it's kind of a community space as well, soccer games and youth activities and all those things. So we tried to provide that connectivity. We aligned it to also, if the people care site plan we're on here, the conceptual site plan, that little green space also connects to the back corner of the people care site. And that's not by happenstance. That was to, make for that linkage from the senior site to the church and have it as a terminating vista for Street D and all of those things. I understand it's separated, so it's, if it was assembled together, it would make for a bigger central park, but trying to balance that.
Anyone else? Councillor Schwint.
Thanks, Mayor Schatz. I'm not sure if this is for staff or the applicant, but you touched on flexibility at this stage. I know there's a lot of people in the audience today that flexibility can be a good thing, but it's also worrisome not knowing what's going to happen. So at what point do we condense down and understand better which end of the spectrum will actually happen in the community, and how does that get determined?
I'm perhaps the least qualified, but I'm willing to take a stab at it. As you know, we have been here in front of this council before as well, talking about sanitary capacity, and there's not a finite, or there's not an infinite amount of it presently available. So I think, you know, as the process unfolds here, I'm assuming that there will be a zeroing in on a perhaps further refined density. You know, we're looking for some flexibility because you don't have a certain timeline as to when you're developing lots or bringing homes to market and all of those things. And, you know, 10 years ago, stacked townhomes weren't even really a thing in Waterloo region. So you kind of don't know what housing forms are coming next. So it's good to have some flexibility. But I think, as Heather has mentioned, you know, our sense and our objective here in St. Jacobs and Woolwich has been to bring forward a development that's a little bit more leaning towards the lower end of the density spectrum. But that's something that we need to work together with staff and take guidance from this group as to what that looks like.
Did staff want to jump in on that at all?
If I may.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mayor
Mr.
Schatz.
LaBrush.
Thank you. To answer Councillor Swin's question, and I think a question of council in general and the public, as Mr. Bender had referred to, there's an upper limit to capacity and servicing capacity in this community, shared between this developer and the developer to the south, who appeared in front of council recently, the Polocorp development, for their public meeting. And Vaughan has touched on it, that we've had, I would say, several meetings with their team, Schlegel's team and Polocorp's team, and we continue with another meeting tomorrow, set for 2 hours between the engineering consultants to really, you know, try to drill down on a acceptable servicing scheme, allocations for both, and the people per hectare that needs to be as close as possible to what the region's official plan had put at 53 people per hectare and jobs per hectare. If we don't come close to that, our official plan needs to be vetted through the province, and we may get told otherwise. So I think balancing all of those things, again, both developers have had cooperative discussions together, individually between themselves, with us as staff, and I think we're getting close in terms of really determining the allocations for both and the people per hectare.
Okay. Thank you. Any other Councillor Cadeau?
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I should have began my last question just by applauding you for the proactive engagement that you have had with your neighbors. It's clear that you're hearing a lot of the same concerns that we're hearing. One thing that I noted from Ms. Price, your presentation, is the Hydro G report did discover a high water table. Are there any concerns with a high water table, and if it could contribute to potential sanitary capacity issues, say in a storm surge?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we're kind of glancing at our civil engineers here who might be better equipped to answer that than me as a planner.
Mr. Ninamia.
Sure, I can speak to that. Yeah, so typically with the design, short answer is no, they should be separate systems. So when they are, when the sanitary sewers are installed, there is testing that's completed just to make sure that they are watertight and the water's not infiltrating into them or wastewater exfiltrating out of it. So it is intended to be designed and constructed to be a closed system. And so that is something that is monitored. I think some of the ongoing issues within aging systems is that individual homeowners can connect roof leaders to that. That is a contributing issues, or just aging infrastructure just from older construction. So those are factors that contribute to that. But for the new construction, generally, it's not a concern. That is something that is tested for during construction, and there are means and method of ensuring that they're closed systems, for lack of better words. So short answer to that is no. They are separate systems. That answers your question.
It does, thank you. But maybe a follow-up for staff. We heard that there could be issues with I&I. If that's the case, and we know we have I&I concerns here in Woolwich, what is the relationship then between potential I&I and a high water table and concerns with sanitary, if that makes sense?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau. I think, I'm not going to speak to this particular development, but just in general terms, speak to the I&I issues. There is high groundwater in St. Jacobs, as we were aware. We do have an I&I program ongoing right now, predominantly in Water and Yonge Street. We were aligning. So what is being proposed is what we deem to be called a third pipe system. The intent of that third pipe system then would be to manage groundwater. Typically, it is the lowest pipe in the system, and it sort of protects and allows home construction to occur. And it should be separated, obviously, from the wastewater system. So again, I will leave that for development service engineering for the review side of things, but just from a high level perspective, that's the intent of what a third pipe system would do. So it artificially lowers the groundwater to permit construction and home construction, so that you're not running sump pumps all the time. It's not entering the wastewater system. So that's the intent of it. So, from that perspective, we don't see an inherent danger or issue with it. We certainly know that we have areas in St. Jacobs that probably would have benefited from a groundwater collection system at some point in its inception, but we don't have that luxury. So what we're doing is tightening up the systems that we do have, as they are, unfortunately, over time, you do find leaks in material and that sort of thing too. So we do have a system that is prone to leaking, and that's why we are doing the CIPP lining program.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. And I would add that I've been pleased to see the collaboration between all the parties, including the neighbors, and I hope we can continue with that. Next is Mike Puopolo from Polocorp and Wayne Martin. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Council. As you guys probably know, my name is Mike Puopolo. I'm the owner of 51 to 55 Hawkesville Road. As I have an active application on the Schlegel lands, I'm just monitoring this application, hearing feedback provided this evening. For council's information, as Dr. Lebrecht mentioned, we've had several cooperative discussions with Schlegel over the past few months about various items that affect both our properties. We continue to work with staff and Schlegel and the neighbors to come to an understanding on what form the development will be in our respective lands, and servicing will play an important role in those discussions. Please also note that David Galbraith wasn't able to attend this evening, but he submitted a written delegation instead. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Puopolo? No.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next, we have Mr. Eric and Mrs. Ann Bauman. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. It is my first time ever in a room like this, so I'm going to shake a little bit. But and council. My name is Ann Bauman, and this is my husband, Eric, and we live on Northside Drive. And part of my presentation of asking for this stems from my 40 years of ICU experience, and saying prevention is way better than an accident. So here we go. Based on over 40 years of living experience on Northside Drive, the neighborhood stands as a caring and tight-knit community. Many residents have called this street home for decades, supporting one another and fostering a watchful environment. even without the official neighborhood watch designation. There are daily dog walkers and children at play, and there's shade along the street by mature trees that make it an inviting space for families and walkers from nearby areas, including downtown. And more recently, I spoke to my my dentist person over at the dental office, and they said they used to walk that triangle, but they've nearly been hit on Northside a couple times. I'm going there myself with this conversation. Anyway, currently there are no sidewalks on Northside Drive from Sawmill to King Street, despite some official documents in that paperwork that's stated on page 8 of the GSP that there are sidewalks from Hawkesville Road, like up from the corner there at Sawmill Road up to Northside. So we have suggestions. The neighbors do not require electronic notifications when Highway 85 to Elmira or the roundabout closes. The traffic starts zipping up the street and we know something's closed because somehow people don't know that King Street exists. And so this may be partly that an EDR route should be made on King Street going to the region to make a sign for that. But that same King Street still exists while we do this subdivision. During the subdivision, trucks and equipment coming up to the top of Northside Drive, which we've talked about. Where's that little pointer? How do you run this thing?
Can somebody help her?
Well, anyway, top of Northside Drive on here, if I can see the little thingy. Anyway, top of Northside Drive and King Street come in a wedge. And Northside comes up and there's about 4 houses or 5 at most coming down to Street A, the gray one out on Northside. Does somebody see that? There. So on, can you run that thing, Eric, if you can? Anyway, so if if the trucks would come up Northside Drive, not Northside, up King and down Northside to that development, as they put that top water drain to the north, as they do any construction, we might be a bit safer on our street. It's essential that King Street gets used. During the subdivision, they have to come that way. We have a suggestion to make Northside Drive a dead end at the development, directing traffic from segment to the segment A of King Street. So even after you have your 800 or 1,000 people or whoever decides to live in these homes, they can come out Street A to Northside and go up and grab King. Currently, we watch people come out of the offices and stuff over on King Street, and then it's really quick to come down Northside because there's no stop sign at the end of that street. So I can go straight through downtown or hang a left. I have no stop sign like I do on King. So not an ideal situation to have more people flying down there. Anyway, so the suggestion from us would be to make it a dead end street at the development, directing the traffic up to King Street and down. But definitely during this construction, all traffic come through King. And if the development could at all come up through Street A from Hawkesville, where most of the dump trucks are probably coming from Stephen Evans, they can come up past the church and in there. We'd love that because we want to stay in one piece. Just last fall, I had my safety vest on and walking with my dog. I'm at the corner of Sawmill and Northside, and there's no sidewalk, and I'm turning to go out Sawmill towards King Street or towards where the medical office is or the EMS, and 4 cars are at the stop sign. 3 cars, sorry. The 4th one comes, oh, I don't have time for that, and zips over on the sideline and almost hits me in my thing. So there's not a lot of safety and with more people and more cars and more impatience, we need to put stop signs at the bottom of our street and at maybe even at the top of the hill, but whatever, to slow things down. But in construction, the trucks have to come down King and to the top end because they have to go there anyway to do the development. So that is my suggestions for the problems of the traffic and the construction and so on. We've talked to Vaughan about that. He alluded to that, and we thank him for being so willing to dialogue with us. And then we have an issue, a concern about building orientation and neighborhood consistency. The current plan shows a dwelling beside Northside Drive on one of them with the houses, you won't be able to see it. One of the development plans, I know their proposals showed the houses slotting towards the development street, and none of the other streets, houses on Northside face that way. They all face Northside. So to stay in the flow of it, having the first house or whatever face Northside would be lovely. I'm going to shoot for the moon now. And if you see that little block down further down Northside where it's a smaller lot than all the other ones, if the first lot beside the development was made a little deeper, it would stay in flow with all those nice deep development, all those nice properties. Not asking for the whole property, but just a block or even a little less than that would keep the flow of the street. Now I'm not shooting for the moon, but asking for that the typical maximum building height for low density zones is 10.5 meters. The GSP planning group is asking to go up to heights of 14.5 meters or 3 stories. There are no 3-story houses along Northside, so to keep the same flow, having a 2-story house at most along there, at least until back in the development, would keep the same flow and feel on Northside Drive. And a really big suggestion, and Vaughan alluded to it, would be on that strip of houses from Northside in along Street A, is to have bungalows and maybe every other one with a little ramp up the front that's handicapped accessible, because we have so many people. We can go to the government with that one. I'm the top there too, but we've elected you and the others too, but we can say we need those homes. And then maybe it might be somebody whose loved one is in people care or whatever it's called, living around the corner. So rather than all stacked homes in that area, because they're all lower homes in that part of St. Jacobs, let's meet a need and put in accessible homes along that street, because there's such a whole huge need for that. I'm going to let Eric talk about the next one, and it's about infrastructure and drainage.
Oh, yeah, it goes along with the high water level on Northside. Years ago, several years ago, we had problems in our backyards on 106, or sorry, Northside Drive, that our backyards were flooding. And it turned out that the groundwater was just not going away. And we fought for better part of a year, and we finally got some answers. And I don't know if the region of Waterloo is here, but it turned out the region of Waterloo was dumping water from the pumping station into our backyard drainage systems in our properties, and our lots were filling with ground. We finally got approval for a municipal drain. And that is one thing we're staunchly want, is that municipal drain to remain and be untouched, because all the residents on Northside had to pay for that drain because the township wouldn't do it. It's a personal matter or whatever, but because of that, we want to be sure about that not be affected at all.
And I know they're aware of it, we've talked about it, but we're putting that on record. Some of us have catchment basements, and even neighbors who did not have to tie into it no longer have their sump pumps running. So that was an answer. So there is a water issue there, and the builder's aware of it, and now you people are too. Now these are concerns just regarding to our property, not the neighborhood and the safety and not being hit on the road. We have and Vaughan talked about it, we have a massive maple tree at home. It's about 100 years old, take about 4 of us to reach around it. And so we asked an independent arborist to come. He says, yep, that's a healthy tree. It's got to stay. It's not old and should be taken down anyways. So we also spoke to Vaughan, and he was there, as well as their arborist, and he also agreed it's healthy. So we're asking for fencing around it and so on to try and keep that viable, beautiful tree going. And the same thing, there's a oak tree, and he said that sparing it, it's only about 5 feet off our property line, and if they orientate their lots, they could make that a beautiful part of a lot. And as the property is running along our entire north line and to the west, we are also requesting, demanding, I don't know what word to use, a consistent fence put in by the developer, not each individual builder that makes it like a rickety thing, that is at least 10 feet tall for the first 100 feet. And then we'll talk about whether the rest is 10 feet tall if they're putting in 3-story houses. But if they put in bungalows, they might be able to shorten it to 8 feet or something. So that would be a vinyl fence that, isn't ricketing apart the whole time. So we've talked about the trees, and I have all the documents here of how it talks about saving trees, and I have the bylaw numbers and stuff, but I think you know them as well as I do. So I'll hand this paper in later for it. It's not all up to date because we did talk to Vaughan in person about the tree. So yeah, we can ask you to continue protecting our trees and our water tables. And, I may die someday, but I want my neighbors safe.
Yeah, the reason why we're vocal about it is because we are 106 Northside Drive, which runs the full length of the property that they want to develop. So we've been there for 40 some odd years, and we have a backyard that's like a park. And now we're going to have 30, 40 backyards backing to our property. So
it's a big change.
Rips your life apart that way.
It does. And so, but then on top of that, I came in with the first half of the presentation totally from the heart about my neighbors being safe on the street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are there any questions for the delegation?
Yeah, I forgot that part.
Uh,
Never done
that's
this
okay.
before. I'm 67 years old today, and I've never done this.
Happy birthday. I'd sing, but you don't want me to do that. Stephen, you are getting all the comments, and do you need a written,
Yeah, if you don't mind providing those written comments to me, either via email or you can provide.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, our next delegation is Mrs. Tami.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
On already?
Yes, it is.
Hello, good evening. Sorry. I don't need it. I'm loud enough as it is. So my name is Tami Schaafsma, and I live on 20 Hawkesville Road. If you had that little map there, I'd be the tiny, tiny little property right on the corner of Hawkesville and Northside. I've been there for, I think it's 18 years now. And I'm just going to speak to my concerns with traffic. Because we've seen a lot of changes in the time that we live there, and it's amazing some of the dangerous things we have seen just as it is now. So my concern is the fact that the traffic study was done in January, and I know there was someone had said, regarding traffic variances changing at times, and mentioning that, well, school's not in session. Right, school's not in session, but the number of kids, bikes, walking, e-bikes, rollerblading, what have you, all around that corner increases greatly. You have more movement, people taking kids to babysitters. We have vacationers. Everything increases. And I would swear that on a stack of Bibles. We've got more heavy traffic with the various construction vehicles, gravel trucks. you name it. We motorcyclists, bicyclists, groups, almost every weekend, there's a large group of bicyclists that are either on on a tour somewhere, or they're practicing, what have you. The farm vehicles increase greatly, maintenance vehicles, and just walkers. We're out, we're walking, we're biking, and Anne, who is just here, my walking partner, we can testify, standing right on the corner of Hawkesville and Northside, and waiting for someone to actually stop at the stop sign to let us cross, because it is not treated as a stop sign. It is treated as a yield sign. And that is every single day and several times a day. I have been in my house and watched out the window as that corner got jammed, because we have an extremely large transport truck of some kind and another large vehicle one's trying to turn right onto Hawkesville, another one is trying at the stop sign trying to turn left. And stuff is jammed. People have gotten out of cars to help flag other cars back in order for one of the vehicles to move back, make room for these huge trucks. And they're not getting smaller, these trucks, they are getting bigger. So I'm not understanding how, if we're looking at our current population in St. Jacobs is 2,164. At the current Schlegel property, we're looking, we said 800 to possibly over 900. And then at the other one across the street, I want to say I had seen 700. I could be incorrect. I haven't looked at that paper for a while. We're looking at something that is going to be well over a third of the current population of St. Jacobs in a very small, dense area. And there's not a lot of places for them to go. The current report by Schlegel, or the traffic report, says that they're estimating at least 70% of the traffic from their area is going to be coming down Hawkesville and using Sawmill Road to get out, to go to the roundabout. Of course, it's a quick and easy access. That's a lot of cars. That's a lot of cars. And it is not going to sustain that. There's no possible way, just from what I'm seeing, just from a daily occurrence of living there. I don't foresee how that much traffic is going to work there. So I'm going to end here, but ultimately, my concern is the traffic. What is going to be done? Consideration, that stop sign is nothing. That is a toothpick in a broken dam. Something needs to be done to help reduce the amount of traffic, slow it down. Oh, the speeders, I won't even talk about the speeders that want to, get through all those stop signs, especially if they're coming from the roundabout and they want to turn left on the north side and then right onto Hawkesville. They're hitting that gas fast because, how dare there be a stop sign there? Lastly, I know they're talking about a long-term care home, which I totally love the idea of that coming, but we're also looking at more vehicles. We're looking at staffing. We're looking at all the visitors, family members, professionals that are coming to that long-term care home in order to do what they need to do there. So we've got that added traffic. So big question mark, how is this all going to be dealt with? Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Any questions? So just in terms of answers, again, I'll just remind the gallery that a lot of those answers will come when staff bring the report sometime this fall, October, November. Fall ends, I guess, in December, right? But yeah, so one of the considerations will be traffic. Next delegate is Ms. Karen Martin on behalf of the St. Jacobs Meadows residential community. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz and members of council and everybody else in the room tonight. There's a lot of people here with lots on their mind. So I think what I'm going to do, our written submission was sent ahead of time. I assume that you've all had a chance to read that. If not, I beg that you do that because I'm not going to read it to you again tonight, but I would like to really highlight what our message is. I'm Karen Martin. I'm representing the St. Jacobs Meadows residential community in St. Jacobs. I have a couple of the other board members here with me as well as a couple of other community members. And our interest is a bit different than some of the other folks speaking tonight. We're neighbors in a bit of a further removed sense. We're not right next door. The traffic issues aren't going to impact, but we do share the same infrastructure. And in the St. Jacobs Meadows, we have unfortunately suffered sewer backups into our basements now 3 times over the past number of years, starting in 2017. Prior to that, for the 20-some years that we had been there, none of this happened. In our minds, it looks like capacity at the water treatment plant. Anything that we've been able to learn tells us that. In our most recent incident on April 4th, we were told that the water treatment plant was over 100% capacity. Now, some of this is the I&I issues that Jared had referred to earlier, but a lot of it has to do with people living in the community and their sewage. So knowing that, knowing what we've experienced 3 times now, we're hoping not for a 4th, we just cannot understand how we can be thinking as a community of adding additional people without doing something to our water treatment plant. Now, we know that's not just a township issue. The region owns the plant. The township owns a lot of what's going in there, especially the I&I. But we as long-term residents of the community are begging you as our government to do something about this. We can't have floods every 3 or 4 years flooding a seniors community. So what these answers are, we're not sure. We've engaged with the region, we've engaged with folks on the township. Everybody listens, everybody's concerned. We honestly believe that. But we have not seen any forthcoming solutions that give us the confidence that we can add any more to this community without putting us at increased risk of what we've already experienced 3 times. So I don't know how much of this is going to be covered in future reports. I've heard it waved at a couple of times tonight, but we need more than waving. We need to hear actual plans for how this is going to be addressed, how we can add all of these additional people to our community without exacerbating what appears to already be a problem. So that's our request to you as council. I don't know if there's region people here, but we also are talking to the region as well. We will keep talking to you. We've tried talking every time and nothing has happened. So this time we're not going to actually stop talking until we understand how this can be addressed. So I'm going to leave it at that unless there are any other questions or any questions at all for me tonight.
Are there any questions? Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, a comment and then maybe a question more for staff. But in order to do something about it, you have to know what the issue is. You're saying it has a lot to do with capacity. I'm wondering if staff can speak to that a little bit. I agree with you. We need to do something. What that is, I'm not an expert in that. So we rely on the experts to tell us. Has there been an investigation into what had happened in this residence? Do we have a known reason why there was flooding in 3 instances, for instance? And if so, what can be done about it? And if not, how are we going to find out what had happened? And I know that those are pretty loaded questions to put you on the spot for, Mr. Pupe. But if you could speak to any of them, potentially at a high level even, to reassure the residents that they're not going to wake up to a flooded basement again.
Jared?
Through Mayor Shantz to Councillor Cadeau. So appreciate the presentation. We obviously met with the community. We are actively engaged in still carrying out the investigative component. Appreciate that this did happen in April. We are in July. And so we do actually have a site meeting this week at the treatment facility with township staff and regional staff and with the consulting engineering group, both the township's consultant and regional consultant. So I think that's a good news story. We obviously are interested in what is happening. I think we have some assumptions. We think that there is certainly some issue with the high river level associated with the weather events. There may be a difference of opinion, but we spoke with the community, and to have no floods, and then all of a sudden 2017, which was a significant weather event across the township, and I would suggest across much of southwestern Ontario in that instance. And then in 22, I believe, and then now in 2021, sorry, and then in 2025. So we've seen this in different geographies in our boundaries as well, and across the region. Climate change is real, and we need to be prepared for that. We appreciate that. Good news piece is the region is, and it was sort of a separate piece that had nothing to do with some of this. They are involved in an environmental assessment process currently to look at capacity associated with the wastewater treatment plant in St. Jacobs. I think I want to also make the comment that Development Service Engineering is reviewing capacity of the township systems, and appreciate that the lands we're speaking of, both Hawkesville developments, we'll call them the Schlegel and the Polocorp developments, they do route not in front of Water Street where 29 Water is, but they actually go under the river along Eby Street and come into the back of the treatment facility. So in our opinion, there is capacity in the system, and that discharge from these two developments at least should not have any impact along the frontage of Water Street. What we don't know, and what we're trying to get to the bottom of, is what is that hydraulic analysis? And that's really the crux of it. If you have a fixed outfall location at a treatment facility and the river level gets to a certain point, what are the mitigation measures? And we think there's two pieces to this EA. There's the future expansion side, and there is capacity available at the treatment facility currently to support what is being presented this evening and what has been presented in the past. But there is another piece to this, which is associated with what we say is these changing weather events and that impact to the river. We also know that there is a component, as we spoke to this evening, about I&I. That is something that the township is actively working on right now. So we're taking it seriously. I think that's important. And this council has directed funds for that. So we are expecting a significant reduction in I&I in this particular area as a result of water and young, and that will be quantifiable. Unfortunately, it will take some time to quantify that because we do need Mother Nature to provide precipitation so that we can really determine if we have tightened up our systems. And we are monitoring. So we do have active monitors in place, and we will be able to have a baseline data and compare to work post-construction so that we will be able to, again, quantify what that reduction is and what that investment has done. So I appreciate the community has done a good job on their due diligence. I know that they had done some work back in 22 or 21, sorry, but then now have further taken that along to do some backflow preventers on individual laterals. We think that is very important to do that. We have a role to play, obviously, and I think we've demonstrated that we are working on that currently, and we believe the region has a role to play here, and we're actively engaging them on what that mitigation measure could be. So there's a future long-term expansion plan as part of the environmental assessment. There's also a current analysis that's being undertaken regarding hydraulics and how that wastewater treatment plant functions with the river levels as they're fluctuating and obviously tightening up the systems from an inflow and infiltration perspective. So that's what I can update today. And I think the good news story is that we are continuing to move forward with that. So we're not pausing, we're not waiting for the next event. We are actively engaging on the investigation.
May I respond? So thank you, Jared, and I fully appreciate that you are engaged and doing tons of work, but a few things in response. So the Waterloo Region expansion idea is no closer than 5 years and probably a lot further than that away. So I think that expansion idea of the plant is one that does not address our problem. Secondly, when you talk about the developments on the north end of town, somehow bypassing Water Street, they're still going into the water treatment plant. And in our opinion, and I know people keep saying the water treatment plant has capacity. When we had our issue on April 4th, it was reported that the plant was well over 100% capacity. So we're not understanding the difference between the numbers we're hearing here and the numbers that we're hearing here. And so we need more understanding. I know you're working on it. I'm happy you're having a meeting. That's awesome. But we're still looking for more hard facts that line up with our experience, what we've heard, and what we're worried about for the future. So if you can report back to us after that meeting in some way, Jared, probably through Doug. Doug Bein-Gessner is the chair of our board. He was here at a previous meeting. We would love to hear what you find out. Causes, to your question, you know, there's still like this.
So is that a good communication route then, is through Jared or our staff and Doug?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll engage anywhere, anytime. If you need our opinions, you need our experiences, we're more than happy to work with you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Susan Weber. There she is.
So, Susan Weber, daughter of John and Pat Weber. I spent a lot of time on this, and I would totally, after listening, like Vaughan, we really appreciate what you did coming, talking to us, and about all the things that are concerning to us, and we do feel like he's listening, and that's important. But as I say, if I read this as I wrote it, I'm going to sound like a real dick. And I don't want to.
Then just speak to us.
Okay. So a lot of people have covered a lot of the issues that I'm going to, and I was the person who sat here and asked about transportation or whatever it was. I'm not sure. I'm the one who, I don't know, who knows, maybe other people did too. I would like to see Northside Drive a dead-end street. And I pull that from, when I go it's we, unless we don't support me. We have lived on Northside Drive, everyone, pretty much for decades. So you have decades of people living on that street. And so up here you have, that's Bert's picture of the wheat field. That's their view, that's what they lose. So when you talk about change, we're not just talking about change, we're talking about lifestyle, major upheaval. The two pictures on the top, the one on the left, I could take that picture 50 times a day. And that's basically what our street looks like. That's basically, if you don't give us a dead-end street, what you are taking away. We're on a street that has huge mature trees, homes that are set back. And I had a third item if I was reading. But we want to preserve that, not from a sense of privilege or entitlement, but because it's special. Because it's important not to just tear things down, rip things up, and change things. Progress is also preserving that which is valuable. And on the right-hand side, that's Sharon and her mom walking down the street, because that's what we can do. You add, if you don't close off that street, I'm just saying you're taking away people, and not just our street. You talk about St. Jacobs as a small town. People choose to come to St. Jacobs for that lifestyle. They financially invest in buying a home when they're buying that environment. So change, you know, I do want to read some of I got to find some good stuff here. I know I do have something that's not too offensive. You know what I do want to say is Karolina, who hasn't lived for decades on our street, when she chose to move and had to buy, and she chose St. Jacobs, she told me she sat on our street on different days, at different times, to see what it was like, where she was going to be moving to, and if this was the environment that she wanted to raise her family and make her home. You don't make it a dead-end street. Karolina just wasted her money. Except that she has great neighbors. Oh, I know. It was a traffic study that somebody questioned. I questioned the traffic study. January 11, November 6. Dates that raise serious concerns. One could argue that on a weekday in the dead of winter and a late fall day after the harvest, that they do not accurately reflect the true character or typical usage of Northside Drive. Vaughan had mentioned that perhaps past studies had been used to complete the assessment of how our street can accommodate that, but I think other people have mentioned how a generic classroom checklist traffic study doesn't give you the understanding of the traffic flow, the type of traffic. It doesn't differentiate between what is a car and what is a horse and buggy, what is, a lawnmower. I mean, we have a very open, quiet, except for the people who abuse our street, by using it as a bypass, by I don't know. I don't know if I'm making my point. Oh yeah, here's another one. You hear about planning, and I wonder, what is the planning department doing for those of us in St. Jacobs who already live here? I heard about on Cedar and Isabella how they want to build a condo, and then it makes, and who said something about the code 3 and the code 6, or so I wondered. Pardon? I wondered if Bert's property, if he decides to sell, if then a developer can come along and build whatever they want, instead of it being a single-family home, or if downtown St. Jacobs, if a neighbor has, their neighbor is selling and they have more than just a front flower bed, does that mean a developer gets to come in and put a condo? I don't think condo resonates with St. Jacobs. Sorry, Polocorp. Progress isn't just about opportunities for new roads and buildings. It's also about listening and ensuring that new growth complements rather than erases what's already here. It's about preserving not only structures, but also the intangible elements that define a place. And that's where this traffic study can't possibly, it doesn't take into the intangible, doesn't take into what we experience day to day, year to year, living on that street. And it's not that we're against growth. We get it. There's growth. But we don't want you to overlook or diminish what makes this community special. We're looking for growth that is mindful and tries to assimilate with the current fabric of the community and the streetscape. I mean, that's in that plan that the township put out. Respecting the existing streetscapes. I mean, we know we have I know, here, dead-end streets exist successfully elsewhere in the township as well as the region, and Whistler Road in Waterloo is an excellent example of how Whistler was once a through street that they made a dead-end street. These dead-end streets demonstrate that emergency access, snow removal, and road maintenance can still function effectively. I just think it's really important that, well, I want what I want, and I want it to be a dead-end street, because you're taking everything. You're taking everything from us if you don't give us a dead-end street. You're at least giving us the reason that we chose to live on Northside Drive. You're giving it back to us. I don't know. I don't know what's more impactful, if I'd been able to read all this, but then you might not have thought so highly of me. No. Let there be an element of consideration for our existing community by creating this dead-end street. And the dead-end street should start, even if it's not nice trees or a berm or whatever, before we have construction vehicles ripping up and down our street. I don't know. How did I do, Em? I'm not a dick.
Are there any questions? Councillor Cadeau.
Definitely got your point across. If all our delegations were that exciting, and we would be in for a fun time every night. My question's more for staff, though. If we were to dead end this street, would it impact any other services? I'm thinking snow removal, for instance.
Through Mayor Sean to Councillor Cadeau, it's a difficult one to, so what we do on a cul-de-sac is we typically hire contracted services to blow out the bulb. But then what it also does on a dead end street is it reduces the class of the road, which would also say that you have to attend less. So, you know, there may be some reduction in maintenance costs if we were to follow, typically we follow minimum maintenance standards. But for winter control, I would suggest most municipalities far exceed those minimum maintenance standards. But if we were to revert to sort of that as a bar, you could argue that a dead-ended street would require less maintenance. You would see plows less potentially because it would be a reduced classification because you're not having the through traffic, right? So that's the intent: lower volume road, lower speed, less requirements from the province to maintain it. So there could be an argument to be made by that.
We could easily take a vote on that. We're sitting right here.
We're not
If you want to
gonna-
know what we value, more maintenance or a dead-end street, it's very easy to take that vote tonight.
Okay, we're not going to take the
No,
vote,
I know.
but
I'm
we
just,
hear
I'm
you.
just,
We hear you.
okay, you hear me, okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thanks. So
Yep.
Karolina Korsak. Welcome,
So-
Karolina.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to read mine like I wrote this, just because it is a little late right now. So my name is Karolina Korsak, and I am formerly a PhD researcher in the area of sociology and intangible heritage at the University of Waterloo. Currently, I'm an independent researcher. I briefly would like to make my observations regarding the proposed Schlegel development. So last week, it has come to my attention that no heritage research studies have been done with regards to the planned subdivision. Since this area is abundant in Mennonite heritage, I found this to be an unexpected oversight. Clearly, this development would significantly impact Mennonite cultural heritage, a cultural heritage that could use the town's safeguarding. What exactly is it that we should be safeguarding? There are two types of heritage. On the one hand, heritage can be tangible, such as buildings, structures, objects. On the other hand, heritage can be intangible, such as people and the expressions of their culture. For example, the social practices or way of being of a group of people are an intangible cultural heritage. Consequently, if the practices of a group of people can't be expressed, then that heritage can become lost. As we know, Woolwich is rich in Mennonite culture. St. Jacob's holds one of the largest Mennonite communities, and it is this community that makes the town what it is. Tourists will drive several hours to get out of their densely populated urban areas just to enjoy the slow-paced area and appreciate the beauty of Mennonite culture. When I speak with visitors or tourists, they ask, "Where are the Mennonites?" That is the first thing they often ask. This is a Mennonite town, and yet where are the Mennonites? As it stands, St. Jacob's area still has one of the largest Mennonite populations in Canada. According to the 21 census, 6.4% of the population of Woolwich reported a Mennonite origin and 1% reported Pennsylvania Dutch, compared to 0.3 and 0.1 in the rest of Ontario. Nonetheless, that comes to fewer than 2,000 Mennonites for all of Woolwich. So this neighborhood would essentially be larger than half the population of the Mennonites in all of Woolwich, and it would be stuck in one area of St. Jacob's. Shouldn't we primarily focus on protecting this group, or at least at some level? Mennonite settlers built this town, yet are being driven out due to decreasing agricultural land, the town's pressure to increase population density, and the consequence of that, which is an increase in traffic. Even the Schlegel development traffic study that was done in January of this year, I believe, did not differentiate between Mennonites and horse-drawn buggies that go 8 kilometers per hour, at best, from regular SUVs driving 50 to 80 kilometers per hour. With a proposed subdivision with around 900 new people in the community, that could equal to over 1,000 new cars, taking into account inevitable visitors, renovation projects, and other needs. That's hundreds of new cars on an otherwise slow-paced street. This is extremely problematic for the area and shows disregard for the intangible cultural heritage of Mennonites still living their traditional slow-paced lives in the St. Jacobs village. Using the horse and buggy is a form of intangible cultural heritage which will directly be affected by these developments. I propose that a detailed report or study is prepared on the intangible heritage of this area, which takes into consideration the cultural heritage practices of local Mennonites before there are no more Mennonites left. Mennonites use Northside Drive and King Street North multiple times a day. They travel to the local churches, especially on Sunday. The locals can hear the horse hooves on the street outside of their windows. We would like to keep it that way, rather than hearing 1,000 new cars. And the Mennonites would like to continue using these roads rather than being scattered out of their own town. It is my view that this is not a town like any other. It has unique intangible cultural heritage features that need our protection. These features are the social practices of Mennonites. High density and high-speed traffic will affect this and almost certainly drive these features away. Let's safeguard this practice and give it the attention it deserves. My proposed solution would be to develop a mixed methods study that attends to the social practices and the movement of Mennonites, which this high-density traffic would greatly affect. It would examine the conditions under which Mennonite culture can actually flourish. At a very basic level, this would mean differentiating between cars and horse-drawn buggies in a traffic study, such as the one that was conducted, and conducting it at various times of day and on different days. But more in depth at the qualitative components level, this should include an analysis and report of conditions under which Mennonite culture can actually thrive, and what it means to have to carry on their lifestyle given the increased density of St. Jacobs Village. Think about the area on the opposite side of St. Jacobs, at the south end. You won't find a single Mennonite there. Do you want that for the north end as well? It looks and feels like a suburb of Waterloo and not like St. Jacobs. So I asked, does this village actually need higher density, or does it need instead to protect what makes this village unique from other villages? That is the heritage of its people. If the township treats St. Jacobs like it were to be any other Ontario town, then it will become like any other Ontario town without its distinct cultural heritage landscape. And I would like to argue that losing heritage is the opposite of progress. Thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mrs. Marta Orwinska. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. What you're going to hear mostly will be repeated from what my neighbors have said. But this is my first time at such a meeting. I don't know what to expect, and I just wanted to come and support my neighbors. My name is Marta Orwinska, and I live at 103 Northside Drive in St. Jacobs. I am concerned with the safety on Northside Drive when the building of the new development on Hawkesville Road and Northside Drive will start. There are many people who walk and bike daily on Northside Drive. I have personally 3 elementary children who bike there daily, and I'm hoping some safety measures will be implemented for our community, like, for example, speed bumps, dead-end road, stop sign at Northside Drive and Sawmill Road. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Paul and Debra Martin.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Shantz. Hopefully you remember me from the last time I spoke and my wife. We are appreciative of the correspondence with the development, and it somehow, though, doesn't alleviate all the concerns. The initial plan A, shall I call it, with the enormous amount of fill that would be required to bring the levels up and deal with that water problem would very much isolate, especially my neighbor, very much isolate those our properties from the higher. It's leaving us sitting pretty low and isolated from, with concerns then for future development. And the plan B that we saw a glimpse of, didn't hear much about, but saw a glimpse of it on the map with the no retaining wall, but the new pond, sewer water retention pond at the north end of the subdivision. I understand that that would involve changing the angles and having Hawkesville Road participate a lot more in taking away the sewage and taking away the stormwater. And in Mr. Bender's explanation of that, it will involve, as we just recently went through the shutdown of Hawkesville Road as it was rebuilt in 2020, this Plan B would be kind of a situation where they're going to go back in and tear up what was just finished in an effort to bring the levels down low enough to get that gravity to come from Schlegel development and down Hawkesville Road towards the Northside Drive and Hawkesville Road. And one of my concerns then is how much of the roof water or runoff water, obviously that's not sewage water, so it won't be taking that pipe towards Martin's garage. It would probably be diverted. Essentially, I'm thinking Hawkesville Road would have to be redone all the way down to the train tracks to accommodate all the storm water that's going to be coming from that new subdivision out onto Hawkesville Road and making its way downhill, as that's the way the road slopes. The changes that they're talking about will be changes underground. And one of my concerns with that is if they focus entirely on, I mean, it's going to be a game of inches and degrees to try and get that sewage flow gravity going the right way. There's a high risk that they'll neglect to consider the properties that I live on at 56 Hawkesville Road and my neighbor, that those are left out of that whole gravity thing, essentially leaving our properties uninviting for future development, because now there's no way to get rid of or gravity. Say they want to put a 30 units on my 1 acre someday. Now they're going to need a grinding station or a pumping station if the height has been strictly oriented to accommodate Polocorp and Schlegel, and they leave us sitting low and out of that loop. It's going to essentially take away my equity in a large fashion. And I would love to commiserate with my neighbors, and I'm on board with the concerns with traffic and the concerns with the groundwater. And I see, I mean, this whole thing is essentially the government, Ontario government wants affordable housing, and that's sort of why they've changed the rules a bit. I've spent the last 38 years delivering concrete from new subdivision to new subdivision across the city and all local small towns. And I remember 30 years ago, we built a apartment building in Milverton, and it was very unusual to do some high density building in a small town. And sadly, the rules have changed now, and normal small town or rural subdivisions have become fair game for big developers to get an eye on some big potential. Clearly, that's what motivates all of this, and it seems to sort of fly in the face of affordability. When I love the comment earlier about community burden. Let's say, okay, we need to update that sewage treatment plant as some community burden. We're going to need to update some education school, because you can't bring in 1,000 new people without expecting some of them to want to go to the local school. There's more cost. The traffic, we can't leave it the way it is, because it's not going to work. When 700 people get up to go to work in the morning and they all got one little street to get through, it's going to be congested. So we're looking at lights and traffic circles and more cost. It doesn't seem, I mean, plan A, to bring the lot up high enough to get the gravity fed system they want, 3 to 4 meter retaining wall just to raise it up. That means the sewer pipes are going to be above where the crops are now. It's a lot of dirt, as you know. That's a lot of trucks, a lot of cost, a lot of cost. I can only imagine that if these developers are spending this much money to develop the land, there's going to be little left I mean, it would lend to cutting corners to maximize profits with regards to the buildings themselves. I know the government likes prefab buildings, and I'm worried that something will get built back there in a fashion that isn't long-term. I mean, I've worked with the Reeds in Guelph, and were forced to put in fancy entrance features and things that would help maintain the subdivision as a high-end subdivision. And on that topic, Reeds apparently have been renowned developers for many decades, and are now struggling with a new development in Guelph, and have just claimed to have bankruptcy protection. And investors in that residential development are losing their money, apparently. And nobody tonight has mentioned the economic climate. How can we foresee spending all this money when we don't know what's coming down the pipe with regards to who wants to buy condos? And I think in some ways, these developers are taking advantage of the rule changes, and they're taking advantage, almost exploiting St. Jacobs. You could go to Vancouver and walk downtown and ask if anybody has heard of St. Jacobs, and people will go, yeah. And Sean's family spent a lot of money, and the business association, and that's why people travel from Toronto and love their day trips and come and shop the tourist stores and shop the local markets. And it just seems like developers are thinking, wow, we could sell St. Jacobs. Come live in St. Jacobs. These are going to be attractive location. It concerns me that we're so quick to follow what the government incentives are offering with regards to 53 people per hectare. And this new high density, I mean, the little R6 stuff is positioned right in my backyard and right beside me. And so not only my equity, but my quality of life is kind of swirling in the proverbial manhole here. It really has me concerned that our rush to accommodate this need for growth, affordable growth, is going to leave me as a and some others in town as well as almost part of an experiment or part of some kind of guinea pig thing where let's try this new form of bringing the city into the country and see what happens. And with the recent traumatizing events that we share with the people down on Water Street after the last reconstruction of Hawkesville Road, it leaves us concerned that some oversight or some assumptions drawn will leave us being victimized once again by potential for, oh, we didn't realize that you were going to be getting flooded, or we didn't realize that, I mean, all this water that's going to be running off, where is it going to be going? I don't see any of the provisions for any of that in these plans with regards to surface water and its route downhill towards the river through from Schlegel down Hawkesville Road and through the Polocorp properties. It's a
I've
concern.
heard you've got concerns with the sewer pipe and being able to access that at some point, perhaps from your property. Concerns with water and concerns with density and the increased population. And I see your wife with a piece of paper there. I wonder if she
Talking at the bit.
yeah.
Just
Can I
push me out of the way.
Can I ask you to make your comments and
I
and
appreciate
then
your, I appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
Can we
Okay,
wrap it up?
I'm Debra Martin, 56 Hawkesville Road. Okay, yeah, he has quite a few concerns. He's very upset because the quality of our life is going to be drastically changed. We've been there 30 years. Well, I've been there 30 years. He's been there all his life. And we've had the field behind us, the field beside us. And now, even according to those plans they got put up there earlier, they have high-density buildings behind us and beside us.
And across the road.
And across the road at Polocorp. Okay? This is not city. This is rural. What is wrong with, like, I'm not opposed to growth in country and everything, but what happened to single family untouched housing? Like, you can have a half-acre lot, which you can put your own septic tank in, so you don't have to worry about all the other things that are going on. You can get the water supplied with a septic tank. But I mean, now you're talking high density, you're talking 1,500 people plus between these two. Okay, people are complaining about the traffic. We've complained for years to the cop shop. I was told it takes a month and everything else because it's got to go in their plans. When there's an accident at the roundabout, the traffic is detoured up Hawkesville Road. There's days where the traffic is all the way from Northside up to Stuart Martin's up on top of the hill, and it's solid. That's without these two subdivisions. It's not safe. The horse and buggies, they put kill strips on our street for some stupid reason and turned around and said, oh, well, it's the width of a safely for a horse and buggy. Well, the engineers at the region do not know how to read a measuring stick because it's the width of the horse and buggy. So when a truck goes by, the horse and buggy have nowhere to go because it's a 6-inch curb. Okay. I've talked to many of his relatives that have horse and buggies, and they said it is a living hell. Now we get them going by like every second Sunday, it's a different group and that. And there's probably 150 horse and buggies going past our house up Hawkesville Road. How is this new subdivisions gonna affect them? And kids, you're talking 1,500 people. Some of those are children that'll be going to St. Jacob's School. St. Jacob's School or Conestoga, they're already maxed. Who's building, who's paying for the new school? Schlegel's, Polocorp?
Community burden.
That'll be put on the taxpayers of St. Jacob's. Which, why? They're making the money off these subdivisions, but why are the taxpayers having to pay then for the extras?
It's just to accommodate it.
Yeah, and it's gonna destroy St. Jacob's. Because you're looking, this is a tourist town. Everybody's heard about. I was in Texas 2 weeks, and some people heard about St. Jacob's and the Mennonites. And it's like, really, that's weird. But we have no police department left. They moved out of Elmira. We have we have volunteer fire department. Our ambulance services, we waited 20 minutes while we watched our son die in our arms. We're a 5-minute walk. Okay, so I wouldn't bank on them. Doctors, we don't have excessive doctors in St. Jacob's.
They won't let you in.
They wouldn't even let me in. When my doctor, I was in Wellesley, he retired. I couldn't get into Elmira or St. Jacob's. I had to go to Kitchener. And that took 3 years. The public transit is not up to date. I'm sure you can do something about that. But we don't even have a grocery store in St. Jacob's. We have one pizza store. Elmira's got like what, 5, 6? How many grocery stores? Shoppers Drug Mart.
How many are 6 subdivisions in Elmira?
Yeah, how many high-density buildings are in Elmira? They got their subdivisions, they're all single-family detached homes, but we're supposed to put up with high density?
I've been delivering to Breslau, and their new phase 1 and phase 2, they have the infrastructure pretty much in. Excuse me. Christine Casa.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, like you can talk to whatever engineers. I read the report from some of the engineers from Polocorp. I haven't read the ones from Schlegel. But the one engineer is like, oh yeah, I walked around the property and I didn't see. Well, I have 34 pictures on a USB that shows all the dumping across the road. So, and the engineers that did Hawkesville Road really screwed that one up because they didn't go back far enough into 1973 when the road was originally done. So yeah, we have issues. I don't trust engineers.
We're
Nothing.
still traumatized.
We're still, every year we've been flooded. And I had a blown out rotator cuff and a refractured foot from the second last flood we had in our house during COVID. So for 2 years, I didn't even get a painkiller because I couldn't get into a doctor. So yeah, I'm leery. I don't trust. And I was in housing when I was the ex-husband.
Okay. Thank you for bringing your concerns to us. And we've taken note of the ones that are particularly related to this proposal, and we'll
pretty well almost
address them.
If
So,
there's
thank
any
you.
way, if there's any way forward for you to reject the demands of 53 people per hectare and say, no, this isn't the place for it, I would implore you to make every effort. I know it seems it's gone too far for that now, but I would.
It's a balancing act because, you know, in the end, the province is dictating a certain amount of
Well,
it.
the other reason we have questions is because, okay, I couldn't even make out what that map was. Okay, we don't know the grading situation. I don't know the severances, given that it's 25 two-story townhouses.
Yeah, and have you signed on the paper? Okay, so we'll make sure that you get notice of when the report comes. And the current information that we've got here, that's in the public realm. I don't know if you use, yeah.
But please
Do you-
don't let them make a system that leaves us sitting out of future potential development.
do you use the internet?
I do.
Okay, so you should have access
Okay.
to
Thanks
that
again. Thanks again.
information.
Listening anyway.
Okay, thank you. And our final participant registered tonight is Jim Daniel.
Okay.
Hi, hello all. My name is Jim Daniel. I'm next door to Paul and Deb. I'm at 60 Hawkesville Road. So on the map that was shown there, of any of the property owners around here, Deb and myself, we are the most impacted by this, by the frontage anyway, at least. I agree with almost everything that the previous speakers have said. And I'm not going to duplicate that because I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. So I will go ahead with what I wanted to say. I recently had a meeting with Mr. Bender and Paul, and Mr. Bender briefed us on this particular development. I was looking at basically the change of the water flow storm water flow which is now currently running from north to south, change it to north and to reverse it. During this conversation, I asked Mr. Bender, well, how much fill will be required to do this, to achieve this fill? And I think his figure he gave me was 175,000 cubic meters of fill. The result of that will be that I will have behind me, again from Mr. Bender, a 6-foot wall butting straight onto my property. I further asked him what the medium density was involved in putting these property up. And he said, they will be a 2-story townhouse with a walkout basement. And I said, well, that's tall. Well, that's probably going to be 25, 27 feet tall, the house. And that's sitting on top of a 6-foot wall. So right behind my property, I'm going to have a 6-foot wall and a 30-foot house. And they're going to be terraced right across the back. There's got to be a better way of developing a property than that, than shutting up that view. Absolutely. Further to that, I looked at that 175,000 cubic meters. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot envisage a pile of dirt that's 175,000 cubic meters. So using, I think, I could be wrong here, but I don't think I'm not too far away. If you use maximum size trucks that are allowed on the road, they can carry probably about 40 metric ton. How many trucks will that take to bring in 175,000? Make the calculation, and that will result in 4,350 full-sized dump trucks required to bring that fill from source through St. Jacobs into the site. It will also require 4,250 trucks going back out again. And these are the big 5-axle 40-ton trucks. If you use smaller trucks, the regular dump truck that plies back and forth to Stephen Evans and Keys Wetters and places like that, they're going to carry, what, 20, 22, something like that. That will require probably 6, 7, 8,000 trucks in, dump it, And when they've dumped it, up goes the top there, and bang goes the tailgate on the back to make sure that the load is empty. 7,000 or 8,000 in, 7,000 or 8,000 out. That's literally, I'll take the middle, say about 6,000. That's about 12,000 trucks in and out of a property in St. Jacobs to achieve what? And to reverse the flow of water and give me a backdrop of some 30 feet blind. There's got to be a better way of developing a property than that much. Well, in addition to that, what's the cost of bringing in 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 trucks? I don't know what the cost is, and I don't think anybody here will be able to say exactly, but it's my understanding that it'll be somewhere, it's in the millions. It's well into the millions to do that. And who's going to pay for those millions of dollars to change the flow of the stormwater? Not you or I, unless you happen to buy one of those units that's going to be built there. It's going to be one of those people. It's going to be transferred to what ostensibly is the affordable home person. They're going to have to pay for that. I would also ask that when this retaining wall is built, it backs right into my property. I have up back there a stand of some 75-year-old coniferous trees, fully mature. What's going to happen to them when they have a property, when they have a wall on the east side that's going to be about 3 feet tall, on the west side about 15 feet tall? What's going to happen to them? I would also ask that if you're going to build a wall and reverse the flow of water, what's going to happen to my well? We've lived there over 30 years now. One of the reasons we bought that property was the water was very good. It still is. I have no filtration systems whatsoever. The water is clear. I turn the tap on and we drink it. What's going to happen to that? What effect will reversing the flow of the groundwater have upon my well? I think the answer is nobody knows. But somebody's going to take a chance with that, and it ain't going to be me. Anyway, I said my piece. I will not duplicate what other people have said, other than I agree with them. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
So just to be clear, what I think I heard for the proposal is actually not to have the wall. Is that what the?
I have to say, I was addressing the principle, the first plan.
Understood. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, the first plan that was presented to me initially. Yes, I recognize that there could well be amendments with the third line, the third pipe, as you discussed.
Right.
Yeah. But if you stay with the first one, then these scenarios stay in place. If you go to the second scenario, they can be mitigated somewhat.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, that is all of the listed delegates. We have written comments from Mrs. Sharon Charter, and you can read that in the agenda package. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Okay, seeing none then, thank you everyone for coming in and for your comments. Staff have kept track of them, and we'll be getting a report out in the fall, date to be determined. And then you will have an opportunity to speak again once staff make their proposal and you see what some of those details are. I think our last,
Just because I worked so hard on this.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see this.
we'll just look at the good points. Yes, okay. So the final report tonight is a notice of intent to declare land surplus 22 Church Street West and 3 Maple Street, Elmira. And I will call on Jonathan Deli-Colley and Deanne Fries, Director of Development Services, for that. If you just want to wait a second until people clear out. While we're waiting for the room to clear, does anyone need a break? We're all good? Okay. Can I ask you to take your conversations outside so we can finish our lengthy meeting? Thanks. Always, always.
There we go.
I said we lost the clerk. What does that mean? Oh, okay. No, we were waiting for the room to clear. Okay, Jonathan, Deanne.
Jonathan will be presenting this one.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jonathan Deli-Colley, and tonight I will be presenting an information report on the disposition of township lands in downtown Elmira. Tonight we are providing notice of intent to declare as surplus the lands at 22 Church Street West and 3 Maple Street in Elmira's downtown, and we will be opening the floor for feedback from the community regarding the disposition of these lands. For some context, the process to declare the land surplus was initiated in 2019 for a portion of 3 Maple Street, but this was deferred following council direction for staff to first complete a downtown plan for Elmira. This downtown plan, completed in 2022, was then used as a guide for the identification of key areas of redevelopment in the downtown, and this included 3 Maple Street and 22 Church Street West. Earlier this year, the township purchased the Home Hardware Building Center at 22 Church Street West for the purposes of assembling a larger parcel for redevelopment into a mixed-use residential building with a commercial ground floor component. This was made possible thanks to the funding from the Housing Accelerator Fund. Now, for the properties to be redeveloped, we will first need to provide notice of intent to declare the lands as surplus, and following this, we will be a bylaw will have to be passed declaring the land surplus at a following council meeting. In anticipation of this meeting, staff prepared and mailed notices to property owners in a 120-meter radius of the lands in question, and published a notice in the Observer that a public meeting was going to take place tonight on July 22nd, 2025, for the purposes of receiving feedback from the community, once again on the disposition of these lands. Looking to the next steps, we will return August 12th at the council meeting with a staff recommendation report alongside a bylaw to declare the lands as surplus to allow for the disposition of subsequent redevelopment of the properties. At the time of the meeting, we will also provide council with a recommendation report selecting a preferred proposal and proponent from the request for proposals process that was initiated earlier this year. No decisions on declaring the land surplus will be taking place this evening, but staff are present to answer any questions from council or of the general public. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Schwint.
Yeah, thanks. I guess the staff recommendation report that comes back in August, can it include a more holistic view than just the two properties in question? I think there's some surrounding properties, including this one here, that would be impacted by any future development. I think that should be a more fulsome conversation. I don't know whether it's an open or closed session, but I definitely think it's important for council to have.
Yes, I'm seeing nods from Deanne, so.
The report to come in August will be more detailed, and we can certainly make sure to include specific references to properties around.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. Will there be any other opportunities for residents to engage on this through Engage Waterloo Region, for instance? I'm just being mindful that the room cleared out relatively quickly after the last one. Is something on Engage?
We do not currently have anything on Engage specifically relating to the disposition of these lands. We can look to put a page up. It wouldn't take long, so we can definitely do that.
Would it limit your ability to come back with a report if we were to solicit feedback in that way? I would hate to hold it up. That's the only thing I would caveat.
Trying to think, we could probably put it up for 1 to 2 weeks to accept feedback. Beyond that, we'd have to finalize it there so that we could get the report to council.
Deanne.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, so are we talking about specifically declaring the property surplus, or are we talking about the redevelopment of the 22 Church Street with the adjacent property?
Probably the redevelopment.
There is an Engage page for the redevelopment at the moment, yes.
Perfect, thank you. I'm conflating the two, I'm sorry.
It's getting late. Is there any other, are there any other questions? No, is there anyone in the gallery who wants to speak to this? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, so I will declare the public meeting closed. And we will move on to Committee of the Whole. Sorry, I got to turn the page over. Here we go. We have several consent items for approval. Anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No. Seeing none, does someone want to move them? Councillor Cadeau, Councillor Grant, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you. We need a motion for the bylaws listed on the agenda to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Councillor Bryant, Councillor Grant, all those in favor, and that is carried. And now we will move into Committee of the Whole. For items that require more debate and discussion, we will not be making final decisions on these items, but proposing recommendations for the next council meeting. If anyone in the community has feedback on those recommendations, we encourage you to reach out to staff or submit comments to council before a final decision is made at the next meeting. And so what we're going to consider in Committee of the Whole is tender award report for the Randall Drain Culvert replacement on Fountain Street North. And I will call on Daryl Schwarzentrooper.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Chair, to Council. Good evening. IS 11-2025 is a report recommending Infrastructure Limited be awarded the tender for replacement of the Randall Drain Culvert on Fountain Street North. This report also recommends that Tatham Engineering Limited be retained for contract administration, construction inspection, and post-construction services. The Randall Drain Culvert on Fountain Street North is located approximately 175 meters north of the roundabout located at Kossuth and Fairway Road. The 2024 OSIM recommends a minor rehabilitation occur in 6 to 10 years. However, replacement of this culvert is being pursued to allow for installation of a sanitary trunk sewer that will service the east side lands. The proposed sanitary sewer and existing culvert are in conflict with each other, so the proposed culvert will be installed at a lower elevation to allow the proposed sanitary sewer to pass over top of it. Staff issued a tender for replacement of the culvert with 37 different firms obtaining bid documents and 9 firms submitting bids. The low bid received by Infrastructure Limited is correct with no major abnormalities. The work is scheduled to begin in September 2025 and take approximately 2 months to complete. This project was identified in the 2025 capital budget at $2 million. Considering Infrastructure's bid, contract administration, and construction inspection by Tatham Engineering, amongst other items, the overall project is estimated to cost approximately $1.54 million. It is important to note that there are 2 portions of the region that will be funding this project: the Design and Construction Department and the airport. During the design stage of this project, the Region of Waterloo asked that the new culvert be extended to allow for future expansion of the roadway. The Region D&C Department has committed $379,110.32 to fund the extended portion of the culvert. When it comes to the east side lands, the Region Airport to this point has been a 50-50 cost sharing partner, as a sanitary sewer will benefit the international airport, the future Breslau GO station, amongst other interests. At a 50-50 cost share, another $577,103.59 is anticipated to be provided by the region. Therefore, the remaining $577,103.59 is to be funded by the township through development charges, specifically the wastewater development charge reserve fund. This fund is currently in a deficit, so interfund borrowing is recommended from the Public Works or Roads Development Charge Reserve Fund. In conclusion, the township is recommending Infrastructure Limited be retained for replacement of the Randall Drain Culvert on Fountain Street North, and Tatham Engineering Limited be retained for contract administration, construction inspection, and post-construction services. The Director of Infrastructure Services, Director of Financial Services, and myself are here to answer any questions that council may have.
Questions? Councillor Bryant?
Thank you. Through you to Jared. I know you, or to Daryl, I know you mentioned the GO station in here as well. Is funding going to be different with that? Because that's not a federally owned project, I guess, like the airport is. It's an Ontario project. Is that not correct?
I'll jump in through Mayor Shantz to Councillor Bryant. So I think funding analysis for the remainder of the east side lands is still yet to be negotiated out. That is regionally owned property. Obviously, they require an outlet, and it is certainly been assumed that flows from that land would flow through the extension of this trunk sewer. So this would be sort of the first stage, really make its way down towards the GO station lands on Fountain Street. So that's what's anticipated, but I don't think we have any details yet on exactly what that cost sharing arrangement would look like.
Okay, I'm just curious because I know it is an Ontario project versus a federally owned facility. So I'm hoping the funding will be different for that going forward.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just my thoughts.
You make a good point about the uses of
Yeah.
the land. But the region also does own both pieces.
Correct.
So there, but
Yeah.
you make a good point about
Yeah,
the
funding should be
two
different.
different
Two different approaches.
areas of government that
Yeah.
are
Okay,
running.
thank you. That's all. I was just curious.
Councillor Cadeau.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Through you, probably to Director Lynn. My concerns lie in continuing to borrow with the interfund because we're in deficit. I mean, our roads are not in the greatest condition, so to continue to pull from that is problematic. At what point should we look to debt financing for things like these?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau. So we did an analysis, and this pretty much taps out our roads DC fund. We will also have DC collections, so it's kind of an evolving balance. But I would say for most of the growth-related projects now going forward, we would probably need to debt finance because we just don't have the DC reserve balances for.
Anyone else? There's a resolution in your report. Would someone like to move it? Councillor Schwint, seconded by Councillor Burgess. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have a property tax update, and I'll call upon Director of Finance, Colin Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. So I have a brief presentation. This is anecdotally what I've heard and experienced just being down in the finance department. I've heard a lot of residents come in and ask a lot about property taxes. We've also heard it on the phone, and I wouldn't be surprised if many councillors have also experienced phone calls and questions from our residents. So I did send out some reference material to council to help explain to some of the residents for this. There's no recommendation here, but I just thought I'd do a very quick, brief overview of our current billing process, just to help explain kind of the changes in the tax bill that some of our residents have encountered, and then open it up to a little very brief question and answers. I may not have all the answers, but I can also write some of those down just to keep the dialogue going related to property taxes. And I'm just going to share my screen here. So again, just going through very briefly the actual tax billing process of the Township of Woolwich. Just want to go through some interim versus final billing, general final bill breakdown, a tax rate comparison from 2024 to 2025. I'll go through a really quick example of the tax bill and then the monthly payment plan, because that's another question. And a bit of a silver lining to our current revenue manager being off is I've been much more exposed to the tax system than probably I would be. And I've kind of noticed some areas that maybe we want to focus on and maybe areas we want to improve going forward as a result of some of these questions and responses. So just so council understands, we first have the interim billing for taxes. So the interim billing is mailed in February. It's based on the 50% of the previous year's taxes. So essentially here it's the 2024 tax rates. And the March and May tax installments are related to this interim billing. The second piece is the final bill. That's mailed in July. And it's based on the current year's tax rates. So essentially this is the first time residents will see the 2025 tax rates that were passed during the budget of 2025. So essentially we take the current year tax bill and we minus any of the interim billing that we may have already billed. So the first part is kind of based on the prior year. And these are the August and October installments. And this is the most recent tax bill that residents would have received. So just really quickly to go through essentially the breakdown of the property. So the vast majority, or over 60% of the tax bills are actually related to the region of Waterloo. So for every dollar, 60 cents of that tax bill is actually going to the region. So that's the current breakdown. The township has 26%. We collect essentially 26% of all property taxes. So just over 1/4 of all the property taxes actually go to the township. The irony is we get 100% of the phone calls related to property taxes for even the region, and then the remainder goes to the school board. So we also get the phone calls related to the school board taxes, but we only actually use the 26% of the property taxes. So again, just the tax rate comparison. Tax rates increased were driven by both the township and the region. These are the actual rates that are in our system. For example, for residential, So the township increase, you may recall, was that 9.76% increase. The region was actually a 10.39% increase. And then the school board didn't increase property taxes. So it was driven, essentially the tax rate increase is the township portion and then primarily the regional portion. So again, just really quickly, here's just a sample calculation. It's based on an average assessed value. These assessed values, you're probably aware, are very low because MPAC haven't done an assessment since 2016. But it's essentially the same ratio that everyone kind of pays because no one's assessment has really changed. So the assessment value doesn't really impact the property tax rates. So in this example, the total taxes, for example, in 2024 was about $3,894, where then in 2025, it's increased by $339 for this average residence, going up to $4,234. So out of that $339 increase that the residents are seeing on their tax bills, $240 of that $339 goes to the region, and then $99 is related to the township. The school board, the increase, they haven't increased the school board percentage of the taxes. So part of the problem is, or part of the concern with residents is the entire $339 increase that we've been referring to here is reflected on the final bill, the August and October installments. So they're seeing this big increase, not when the budget's passed, but now when the tax bills are actually coming out. So I also just want to touch really quickly on the monthly payment plan. So we also offer a monthly payment plan to residents. And we've heard a lot of feedback related to the monthly payment plan. So we offer a 10-month pre-authorized payment plan from January till October. The idea is that's essentially when the final tax bills are due in October, that final installments, if you're paying 4 installments. So January to July, and this is information I wasn't aware of, January to July is based on that prior year's taxes, that prior year's amount, and that's that interim billing that we talked about without the monthly bill. But the August to October installments, so August, September, October, the 3 installments essentially that are left are kind of front-ended instead of having, so the first 7 installments are based on the previous year's bill, but that last bill is basically broken up into 3 installments. And this was something I wasn't even aware of until I looked into this. So a lot of the people on the monthly payment plans are seeing a large increase in that monthly amount. And that's really because we don't take the November and December payments. We essentially have those 5 months of payments within 3 months. So they're seeing a big spike in these 3 monthly payments. And then in November, we send a letter with the new monthly amounts for the next year, and they'll have 7 payments, because we only took 7 payments for the next year based on the old rate. But this happens every year. There was no change this year to any monthly installments. So just really quickly, probably can't see that, but this is essentially a copy of a tax bill here. So we did have an issue, and this is where I think it's caused some confusion with residents because of 2 reasons. One was the postal strike, the upcoming potential postal strike with Canada Post, and the second with our manager of revenue potentially going on leave. We ran our tax bills a little early this year to try to get the bills out in front and try to get the taxes out. The problem with getting those taxes out early is the monthly installments, what was printed on the bill, didn't include the most recent July payments because they were actually posted out in June. So when we sent out the bills, the system didn't pick up. Normally we would pick up that July payment from the interim bill, but it assumed that it was still outstanding, essentially. So this highlighted piece, and it says essentially, the first month of every, first of each month, this is how much is going to be taken out. And in this case, it's $640. So the wrong amount was printed on the tax bill. And I've just written here, the actual amount should have been $509.02. We quickly noticed that error. No one, this is one of the important clarifications. No one actually got the 640 taken out. It was just an error printed on the bill, which I think caused some confusion. Then we were trying to be proactive to these monthly customers, and we sent out a bill saying we made a mistake just on the printing. Your actual amount is the $509.02 will still be taken out. It was just a printing error on the bill. This is where I think caused additional confusion, because then they thought it was an error in the tax calculation. There was no extra money taken out. There was no refunds. It was just really a printing error on the bill. But this did also cause confusion, because at the same time they received a letter saying there was a printing error and their taxes went up. So I think a lot of residents thought that there was a tax calculation error or something was wrong with their tax bill. And this is what we've explained to residents. This isn't actually the case here, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through that this is another area of confusion. I think it was a bit of a perfect storm that the monthly amount has changed just as it normally does with those extra 3 months. Then there was an error on the bill. They received a letter. So this is also, I think, causing some of the increased volume of calls related to this. So here's just an example for this resident. Again, we blanked out anything, but normally they would be paying $393 a month until month 7. And then they didn't jump up to the $600 that we showed on that bill. They actually had that $509.02 for the last 3 months. People are doing this really quick math, and I would probably do the same thing. Of 500, it's gone from 393 to 509. This is like a 30% increase. The issue really is because we don't have months 11 and months 12 in here. So you're really paying the next 5 months in 3 months. And this is something that we have done every year, but it's just another area of confusion where people are thinking that's coming up. So as part of this, there is future work to be done. It's really helpful to, again, be closer to kind of the tax system than I was previously, but we're trying to improve education and outreach to residents. And this presentation is another avenue for this. We're going to be increasing our web presence to help explain exactly what I went through. This is how you read a bill. These are the taxes and where they go to. Just understanding your tax bills and having just more of that. And just having key messages and reference guides for our customer service staff to help them understand kind of the tax things so they can better answer some of those calls. One thing we've been looking at doing definitely for next year is having a tax insert into the actual tax bills about where your taxes go. So it'll help residents know this is where your taxes go, show some of those breakdowns that I looked at, and also maybe highlight some key projects. I've seen that in other municipalities, and it'd be a good thing to do here. And then one thing that really jumped out to me is, why do we really do the 10-month payment plan? Because this is also causing some issues where it spikes up and then it goes back down the next year. So I would find it also very hard to budget in those kind of situations with those monthly billing. And can we do something? We can't do anything for this year, but when our manager of revenue comes back, can we actually do something that'll help residents and just have a consistent monthly amount for the entire 12 months of the tax year? And we just change it. Maybe it's in arrears or something. I'd have to go through it, but it definitely seems like that should be a reasonable option, which should hopefully help residents like plan and budget a little bit better. So that's, I just wanted to give everyone kind of a quick update and then just maybe answer some questions if I can.
Questions, Councillor Bryant?
Thank you. Do we still do bank payments like principal, interest, and taxes? Does that still exist, or is everybody just getting billed at their homes now?
I think what you're referring to is on your mortgage, essentially, like the mortgage companies still collect property taxes through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Bryan. Yes, as far as I'm aware, that's still a service that a lot of banks offer. I know some of the smaller banks are trying to get out of that because it's more administrative work for them. but quite a few still offer that service and remit the payments to us.
So do we get monthly payments from the banks in that case, or do they lump it and do it
They
quarterly?
lump it and do it quarterly. Part of the reason the banks like to do that is because they get the cash flow then in
can
and
make
they
the interest
make
for
the
monthly,
interest
yeah.
and then they remit it. But
Okay.
it's a service for to keep the payments constant.
Yeah, I was just curious, when you were showing monthly payments, I wondered if the banks had decided they weren't doing it anymore or how that was coming into play.
It's the ones that wouldn't have it through your Mayor Sean's through their bank, or they're just paying their monthly bill instead of the quarterly installments.
Okay.
They're doing monthly kind of
Okay,
installments.
thank you. I was just curious.
Nathan?
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, is there any legislation that says that we have to do the mailouts in February or certain months? I'm just mindful that we do budget in January and we mail it in February, but we don't update until July. It seems like a large gap.
Through your Mayor Sean's to Councillor Cadeau. I don't know, honestly, the specifics of the legislation. It's something I can definitely look into. I would agree that there does seem to be a large gap, and I do think even part of the issue here, at least to a certain extent, I don't know if it's the full extent, is because we don't pass budget until February. Some municipalities, for example, would pass it in December, and there's probably much less of a lead time. Rather than have 7 months going into the year, it would be at an earlier period. I don't know exactly if they're doing it January 1st and that February bill is already reflective of the taxes. It's definitely something, again, to look into, but potentially we could be moving up the budget approval to, say, December. And I think it would help in a number of different areas, because then you have the next year's budget ready to go January 1st. Because right now we're already in the budget year when we're approving the budget, and this might be another benefit to some of that change.
Just follow up. Maybe I won't. No, I will if I can think of it. No, I won't.
David?
Yeah, just another thing to add to this conversation through you, Madam Mayor, is I think what we have to remember from my experience is the reason municipalities set up the system of interim tax billing and final billing is they also try to align the fact that we have to pay the region, we have to pay the school boards, and you align those dates. And in my past experience, I've worked for municipalities where they haven't necessarily aligned those dates to make sure they're paying the school board on time, they're paying the region, then they have to do short-term borrowing, and that just doesn't make sense, right? So somehow we got to make sure, I think Column's also talking a lot about cash flow and our cash flow. And that's another consideration that you have to look at when you're trying to set when your due dates are relative to the interim and relative to the final.
If I may, I remembered my thought. It had to do with the equal billing. That was a common concern I heard from residents about this is they're on a fixed income. So they join this trying to get those payments for the rest of the year. And so when these come in October, it's sticker shock, but then they don't have to pay. It's just very confusing. So I really appreciate you looking into that as future work. I think it would alleviate a lot of the concerns.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the end of this special council meeting. On behalf of council, we thank all those who watched here. They're all pretty much gone or at home, and we sincerely appreciate all those who took the time to participate tonight. Does anyone want to adjourn? Councillor Cadeau, Councillor Grant, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We will meet again on August 12th.